What's up, y'all? Welcome to another late night happy hour evening edition of the Black Comic Lord's very own Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom. I'm your host, Paul. With me, as usual, is my man, Mark. What's up, my man?
What's going on? Happy Friday to everyone. Hopefully everybody had a fun and safe holiday weekend yesterday. Hopefully everybody has all their fingers and everything.
Yeah, happy 15 days after Juneteenth celebration yesterday.
Did
All
you guys
right.
hold on? Did you guys pop fireworks?
For the first time in a long time, no, we did not. My daughter actually spent yesterday with her aunt. My wife had to do some work because she's got a big project on her job, and I had the day off, which is not often in my career. So I actually just chilled and watched Supercell
Huh. Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
basically all day long. That was my day. Catching up on television I had not seen. I still haven't watched the latest episode of Power, but I did catch up on the Alkalite,
What power?
House
Okay, power. Okay.
House of Dragons, and Supercell. That's what I spent yesterday doing.
Did you
Completely
finish?
vegged out.
Did you finish the fades? Did you finish that one?
No, no, no. I only got through the first episode so far, but it's a dope series.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have
And
too many TV shows I watch, but it's definitely in the rotation now.
gotcha. So, what are you sipping?
So I went to my liquor store, did not see any black bourbons or whiskeys, general whiskeys at all, except for Uncle Nearest, which we've had. I got one called Saint Augustine Distillery Bourbon. It's I don't know if you can get the angle. There's so much of a glare on it. There you go. Florida straight bourbon. It's a it's a whiskey. This one particularly is a bourbon that's made right here in a city called St. Augustine, Florida, which is the oldest city in the state of Florida. One of the
Did,
oldest cities in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
did we do that one? No. What was the one we Saint Mosaic? Saint Mosaic. Saint Mosaic.
Same old same. Same area, but this is I don't know if they're black owned or not, but they're based right out of St. Augustine, Florida. So I'm
Well,
going to
look,
give it got
give it a
my
shot.
glass with my whiskey ball.
You should taste it without it first.
Well, it's too late now.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, I gotta. All right. So in the liquor stores, you can see um old fashions already pre-made and bottled, things of that nature. And I thought
I
that
must.
horrible idea, blah blah blah. But I was on Instagram and I saw some dude and he made uh pre-made old fashioned. So I was like, okay, well let me give it a try. So I got the St. Cloud that we did a couple of weeks ago, and I made up a batch of uh pre-made old fashions that I keep in my freezer. This is it, and I must say it's pretty damn tasty because it's nice and cool. It's gotten kind of syrupy a little bit. It's pretty damn tasty, I must admit.
The Fort Mose that we had, the black owned distillery in St. Augustine, is superior to this.
Yeah,
This
and I didn't like
I
it
don't know if
before.
I'm tasting the barrel or there's some weird taste in there that I don't like. It I can't place my finger on it, but I almost want to say it's like a weird tasting aftertaste from the barrel. Normally, you taste the barrel, it tastes great because most people will either smoke the interior of a barrel or they'll use a wine barrel to get a degree of sweetness or port barrel and then age the whiskey for a few years in a port barrel. This just tastes like I don't want to say it tastes like a cardboard barrel or something, but there's some weird little aftertaste in there I'm not really feeling. And there's not a lot of complexity to it at all.
So about 7 or so years ago, I was at court, left court, went to go grab lunch. There was this there's this restaurant. Out front, it had a marquee that said over 100 whiskeys, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's impossible, right? So I go in, and they've got a bar that's easily 8 feet long, right?
Yeah.
About 4 shelves, nothing but whiskey on. I didn't realize until that point that there were so many very whiskeys in the world that existed. So that's when I started my whiskey tasters club up here. So we would go once a month.
Up here being in Atlanta.
Being in Atlanta, we would go taste different whiskeys or whatever. So that's how my palate got somewhat developed when it comes to whiskey, knowing what I like and what I don't like. And I say that's important because you don't want to spend 60, 70, $80 on a bottle and you don't know if you like it or not. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things basically that we've been doing, for our viewers who joined us over the past couple of years. That's one of the things we've done. We've done the whiskey tasting for them based on our own prep, spent the money, tasted these things, and let the folks know, whether or not it's good or not. And, you've taken a chance on whatever that was. You spent whatever it is, and unfortunately, you don't like it, which sucks because you spent.
It's not bad. It's just not very good. It's okay. It's okay.
It doesn't taste good. That's fine.
If you want to say I just want to have a shot of whiskey, then fine. If you want to say I'm gonna lean back and enjoy and sip and let it go over my tongue and just really relax with a good tasting whiskey, this is not that. This is just bourbon. I mean, you could have. It's bourbon.
Complexity. That reminds me. I think that reminds me of the Charles Woodson whiskey that we had. There was nothing to it. It was just liquid. It had no flavor whatsoever. It was just whiskey, and it was horrible. God, that stuff was bad. So I get it. I understand.
So let's go to the chat. Say hi to everybody who's joined us. Robert Monroe says he watched the first episode of Supercell last night. Looking forward to checking out the rest of the season. Man, that show is so good. We're going to talk about it.
Phenomenal.
You really, man, we're gonna talk about that. Pericles Dragon Balls, what's good, sir? Thank you for being on time. Ken Sigma, we up? Yes, sir.
Milkman. What's up, Milkman?
Dr. Wizard in the building. What's up, sir? Professor the Film Fan. Hello, sir. Cornelius. Happy the day after National Black Folks Grill Day. That's what I'm saying, man. We all know it's just cookout day for us. Good evening, everyone. Chad Kisler. Saying what's up to Dr. Wizard. Damon, what's up, sir? Marwan Williams, afternoon. I guess it's afternoon where you're at. It's evening where we're at.
Where we are.
Did just what I wanted to do yesterday. Slept till 1 p.m. And I slept until, I think, noon yesterday.
I'm not allowed to do that. My body won't allow me to do that. Like, no matter what I do, no matter how late I stay up, I will be up by 6 o'clock.
Well, that's the Air Force in you, I guess.
No.
The Lawrence report early.
Where I can sleep till noon. Bo Biggs.
Bo Biggs! Don't worry, man. I haven't forgot you. I just haven't had a chance to go to the post office. But I got you. I got you something I want you to have. Happy Friday, fellas. The interview with Cheryl and Ina on Wednesday was phenomenal. Thank you very much. It was a big blast. We'll talk a little bit about it in a sec. Sunny night, evening all. All right. Thank you all for joining us. So, whenever we finish our whiskeys of the week, I should have had this banner up already. My bad. We now move on to our Black Panther and Wakanda talk. So, little book came out this week. You might have heard of it. Mark, did you read Black Panther Blood Hunt #3?
I did, and it was great. It was real good. I like issue 2 better, to be quite frank, but I definitely enjoyed this.
So, Mark doesn't ever watch any of our lives, honestly. Any of the Black comic book stuff. He's kind of a weird guy that way. his attention span's not that great for that type of thing. But I will say that he missed a fantastic interview with Sherilyn Eaton. Shout out to Sherilyn Eaton for sharing her time with us. She is, as I labeled in the video, a rising star. She is a talent that is undeniable, and I look forward to reading more stuff from her in the future. And I really hope and pray that she gets the reins to a volume of Black Panther, because she clearly has the chops for it.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of Easter eggs and world building she did in her very limited 3 issues was phenomenal. The fact that she chose to, because literally what amazed me was the fact that Marvel simply told her, we need you to do a Black Panther tie-in run. The big bad for everything is Varney. Go. That's it. That's all the instructions they gave her. And you can't have Storm. You can't have any mutant. But other than that, go ahead and do whatever you like. That's all the instructions they gave her. So coming up with the whole premise of Varney being tied into Wakanda's origins and history, having her curiosity of something I've been always trying to figure out myself, which is how is it that Wakanda's Orishas consist of members of the Ennead? That I never quite understood that. Why is Bass considered an Orisha when she's part of the Ennead? And the fact that that also was a question in her mind, and she decided to come up with a plausible reason as to why that is,
Let me interject
and
real quick.
developed. Yeah,
Let me real quick. For those who don't know, who may have missed us previously, the Ennead and the Orishas are 2 separate African pantheons. When I say pantheons, I mean group of gods. The Ennead are quote unquote Eastern gods, i.e., Egyptians. So the people you recognize from that pantheon would be Khonshu, Bast, Set. Those are the Ennead. The Orishas are the Western gods, native to that are worshipped by Yoruban people, right? Like in Nigeria and things of that nature. So they are the Western gods. I think about a week or two ago, I described them basically as the Crips and Blood, just something so that people could recognize. And at that time, before Wakanda became an actual nation, their landmass was unclaimed by either the Ennead or the Orishas. And this story tells how it came to be that the peoples worshipped one set of gods versus the others.
absolutely. She tied in the events of Varney basically enslaving the original people that settled the Wakanda area. He wanted their blood, and he wanted the vibranium of the area to build his gate so that he could ascend to godhood from being a demon.
Right.
She tied it all together and basically said, a group of these gods from the Ennead and the Orisha came together to try and fight the good fight, and as a result, tore the place up. So much so that Eshku, one of the higher gods, said, "You guys got to clean this mess up. Now it's your responsibility to take care of these people and this land. You can't just, break the glass and walk away. You got to make amends and be responsible for these people from there on." And thus was formed the Wakandan Orisha. So now we, in essence, have 3 pantheons. Before, we simply had the Heliopolitans, also known as the
Ennead.
Ennead, and then we also had the Vodun, or the Vodun, whichever one you want to pronounce it, which represented the West African gods, the Orishas, for all intents and purposes, as the people from Benin referred to them as the Orishas. And so these 2 Enneads get merged into one, or members of these 2 Enneads, members of these 2 pantheons come together and is formed into a Wakandan Orisha group, their own pantheon. So, in essence, she created or defined that there are indeed three pantheons of gods. Although um, Ta-Nehisi Coates introduced the Orisha in Volume 6, Issue 13, he never really explained how they became Wakanda's Orishas. This series, this not even a series, this tie-in explains how that had occurred. That
So
makes these three issues, or particularly issues 2 and 3, that makes these Black Panther keys.
So it's basically like when you have the Illuminati, and in Marvel, the Illuminati are members of different groups: X-Men, Avengers. You had Namor from Atlantis. You have Black Panther, and some of them you have Black Panther from Wakanda. Even though they were members of different organizations, they came together and formed a supergroup. Much like when Johnny Gill, Keith Sweat, and what's his name? Who's else? The member of that group they formed together? I can't remember.
New
But
Edition?
no, no, no. You had Johnny Gill, Keith Sweat, and there was one other third member.
Oh, it was
I
like
can't remember.
Genuine or somebody like that.
No. It was like SSG or something like that. But anyway, there was, in R&B back in the 90s, you had a couple of dudes, you had three dudes from different groups came together, made an album unto themselves. And that's kind of what has happened with this pantheon of individuals who are now being worshipped by Wakanda. If you haven't paid attention to this series or the Blood Hunt storyline overall, basically Blade took over the planet. He had Dark Force users expel their energy, so the sun is blotted out. Vampires are ruling the world. But what we learned in Blood Hunt number 4 is that was not actually Blade; it was the demon Varney. And Paul mentioned before that Varney appeared in Blade's book back like in the 70s or 80s or something. And
He was in
they
Midnight Suns. He was in Blade the Vampire Hunter, where he first tried to possess Blade and use him as a vessel that failed.
and that's as we say sometimes, they went digging into the crates, deep into the crates, to bring this big bad to make a storyline about him. And so Blade or Varney, looking like Blade, bit Black Panther T'Challa. He now is suffering from vampirism, even though the heart-shaped herb is fighting off the infection. He pretty much handily defeated the Avengers, and so Varney sent Blade on a mission to find this temple in order for him to use his powers to become all powerful. So that's where we are right
All right. Well, we have Super Chat. Damon Watson, just want to let you guys know I appreciate you all putting me on to some books and unrecognized Black creators. Thank you very much, sir. We greatly appreciate that. And with that, you get Thank you very much, sir. But not to be undone, my man Bo Biggs. That was a great interview, Paul. Sherilyn is at the top of my list ahead of Black Panther going into the facts. Facts. I already started the campaign. I encourage each and every one of you, go on your social media, tag Marvel Comics, and tell them, hey, Black Panther Blood Hunt was phenomenal. This is a great, not just a writer, but the whole team, like that artist. Fareed Karima, that dude needs to stay too. Like the whole team, the whole art team, and Sherilyn Eaton need to be the new team for the ongoing Black Panther series. Tag Marvel and tell them to do it. But thank you very much for your super chat, and for that you get this.
Show me the money. I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money. I love Black people.
So Will Moss, the editor of this book, he's on the Twitters, so you could tag him too. I think his at is at WIL_MOS
Underscore Moss. Yeah.
if you are so inclined to do so. What's weird about Will Moss is he let a particular writer have 12 or 15 issues of this book of Black Panther, which was just god effing awful. But then he goes out and finds a wonderful writer like Sherilyn Eaton and puts her on this. It's like that dude is somewhat schizophrenic when it comes to this property because you have shit one time and then you have brilliance another time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, look, she did say in her interview that it was actually Will Moss who came up with the idea of tying in some of the events in Blood Hunt with ancient Atlantis. So I give the dude props for that. He brought some things to attention she was unaware of, which she used in the book. So I have my beef with Will Moss over what happened with that one writer I don't talk about. But
this doesn't overshadow that.
It doesn't overshadow that, but he's doing better. And I have to give credit where it's due for hiring Sherilyn Eaton and helping her with some of the choices that were made on the book that ended up being absolutely fantastic. So I give you props for that. Thank you, sir. Let's see. More in the chat. Sunny Night, Gerald Levert. That was the other member. Oh, Bo Biggs, LRG.
That's it. Gerald
That's
Levert.
the name of the group.
R. Who's the R? Was it LRG? That doesn't seem right. It may very well be right, but
Levert,
it was like
Gil,
Levert,
and
John
R
Gil,
was
and no, but it was Keith Sweat, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Was it LSG?
Maybe it was LSG. Sweat.
Yeah, I think it might have been LSG.
Levert, Sweat, and Gil.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Pan-Africanism.
Spock Jenkins. That's Mr. Spock's cousin.
Styles Serious says LSG. Spock Jenkins says LSG.
Right.
Bo Big also says it's definitely LSG.
Yeah, that was a typo. Jill Levert, Keith Sweat, and Johnny Gill. And those three crooners had their own individual groups, but then they came together to form Voltron and made a super group and made one particular album. That's right. Levert, Sweat, and Gill. That's right.
Hey, as Chad Kinsley just says, please, as you're watching this, hit the like button, y'all. Just take a second right now. Just hit the like button. It's what helps our algorithm to go and helps the space grow. We're trying to get Black Comic Lords to be bigger than what it is, and just simply hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel. If you're not subscribed, help you know when we're going to do this show. Subscribe to the channel allows you to do that, and please share this on your social media. Hit the share button, share it wherever you like, and put the word out to get other people to try and watch the show. You're not growing, you're dying. All right. Ravenel Dupree, where does Sherilyn Eaton's tie-in rank amongst other Black Panther event tie-in runs? Between the King and Black tie-in, Secret Invasion tie-in, and now Blood Hunt tie-in, which one is y'all's favorite? Ooh, that's a tough question.
So it's unfair to throw
Hold on. Before you go on that, I will say one thing. Those other tie-ins. Two of those tie-ins were actually Secret Invasion. How many issues was there? That one issue or two?
It wasn't even a tie-in, so to speak, because it was part of his Black Panther book. So it wasn't a separate that I recall. I don't recall there being a separate
tie-ins can be part of the ongoing series. That's not unusual.
No, I'm not unusual, but just understand that there's a distinction.
I'm trying to remember how many issues
this Black Panther
one was though.
Issue tie-in. I don't think there was. I want to say that there was one issue of Black Panther that was a tie-in to the Secret Invasion storyline where he and the Wakandans defeated the
see Wakanda and die. See Wakanda and die.
Yeah, it was just one issue that I recall.
It was one issue. Yeah. So, King and Black and that Secret Invasion were one issue, whereas this was a 3-issue thing.
And it was a separate, legit tie-in. It was its own thing. So I don't think it's necessarily
King and Black was also a separate tie-in. King and Black was a separate tie-in by Jeffrey Thorne.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But
it doesn't matter if it's in the book, the main book, or if it's a separate book. That's irrelevant to the question. Which of these how do you rank these?
It's unfair to Jeffrey Thorne and the writer, I guess it was Reginald Hudlin of the Secret Invasion.
No, it wasn't. The Secret Invasion was not Reginald Hudlin.
So who was
it? It was Jason Aaron, I believe.
Okay. Well, it's kind of unfair because they only got 1 issue to develop and tell a story. She had 3 issues to do hers. Jeffrey Thorne's obviously was the best one-shot Black Panther kind of ever. All right. This one
still remains.
Say it again.
I said yes. It still remains the number 1 in my opinion.
Yeah.
For being a one-shot.
Yeah. I mean, this one is spectacular. It's very, very good.
Yeah. And as I said, unlike those other, well, I wouldn't say unlike these two, this particular book by Sherilyn Eaton, beyond simply being great and something you have to have in your Black Panther collection, it's actually a Black Panther key. It's absolutely a key, talking about the origins of the Wakandan Orisha and of the origins of Wakanda itself, and introducing new characters in Anuket. That's dope. That's dope. She did a lot in 3 issues. She did a lot. Yeah. I mean, my interview with her was over 2 hours. It's not that I wanted to do a 2-hour interview per se, but there was so much that she had in there that I had to unpack, or else I'd just be kicking myself later. So I took the time to go be as very detailed as I could. But yeah, in terms of so
I think it's unfair to compare those one-shots versus 3. I mean
that's a bit difficult. That's a bit difficult. I'm not gonna
give her more space to develop her story. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. No, we're not saying that name, Pericles. Let's see, Paul. You got to forgive. I said I forgive the dude. I mean, I don't know forgive, but
yeah,
I will give him. I'll give props where props are due.
Props are definitely due.
The Secret Invasion was fire. It absolutely was. See Wakanda and die.
Yeah. You know,
you got everybody upset with the LRG comment.
Right. Speaking of those tie-ins, I really liked.
This question's for you, Mark.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I really like that House of M Wakandan storyline. I think it was issue 10, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very, very good. I really like that a lot.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was good.
This is a Mark question because he's a Thor guy.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to say it was the annual number 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so that's one of them.
Annual number 10.
The annual number 10 has the pantheon of a whole bunch of gods in a big battle, and it's the first time you ever see the god Shango in Marvel Comics. I don't even know if you ever see him again. It may be the first and only time.
And one of the things that I keep getting confused about, because you have that one when they fight Atum, the God Eater, but then also in the Thor book in and of itself, there's another storyline, and I mentioned it previously, where the pantheons are trying to figure out how they're going to fight the Celestials. That's in the 300s. I can't remember exactly, and later on I'll look for it and let you guys know. So sometimes, having not read them in over 20 years, I kind of mix them up a little bit. But definitely Thor annual number 10 is the one that you want.
There's also Thor, I think 300, 301. I believe you said, Mark.
It's around there. It's around there because
hold on, let me look real quick because I don't own that many Thor issues.
Right. So the Celestials are coming to Earth to make a judgment. As you guys know, the Celestials decide whether or not a society or planet is going to live, giving them thumbs up, thumbs down. the Sky Fathers of all these different pantheons, Odin, Zeus, et cetera, came together and said, "Hey, we need to figure out a way to fight them." The Celestials and their superpower, they locked them off in their own little, not continent. How do you say this? The realm. They were up in the sky, in a different realm where they all met outside of their own normal area. And so the Celestials' powers sealed it off so they couldn't come to Earth and fight. And so you had, like I said, the Greek gods, you had the Asgardians, you had the gods from India, and obviously other different pantheons. And I haven't read that book in 20, 30 years, so it's kind of difficult to remember right now. But that's another book that deals with the deities of the Marvel Universe.
Here's another book that you should take a look at if you're interested specifically in the Ennead. Let me pull this up. It is Thor 239. Thor 239 is the first appearance of they refer to them as the Heliopolitans, which is the Egyptian Ennead. Is in this issue and the subsequent issue 240. You see on the cover there you have
Set,
I believe, who was the big bad. He appears in several Thor comics.
Set makes a lot of appearances.
And then the big book that Marcus. He does. Usually as a bad guy.
No, he is a bad guy.
And finally, yeah. I mean, bad, good. They're just labels, right? And then finally, we have the main book that Mark had mentioned, Thor Annual number 10.
Yeah.
This has a whole bunch of gods in it.
So he's an elder god, and can't nobody, no matter the Sky Father or member of any pantheon, they cannot face him one-on-one because he absorbs. He's the son of Gaia, if I'm remembering correctly, and he lives in the sun. And whenever he feeds off of Eldritch god in energies, and so that's why he's basically pretty much undefeatable. But I need to reread that. That was a pretty good story. But we're getting way, way, way off topic.
Let me show you the show. Well, kind of. I mean, we're talking about the gods in this Black Panther blood hunt. And here are the as presented in Thor Annual 10. You've got the sort of Quetzalcoatl, who is the South American god. Tawa, who is the Native American, indigenous American god. Down here, Shango of Africa's Yoruba tribe is here rolling on a thunder cloud right next to Thor, because he is the equivalent of Thor. Indra, Thunder Master of the Hindus, and Apollo of Olympus, all on one page.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. And they get into a big fight with the big bad in that issue. But Marwan, the other book that I think that you might be mentioning is the Thor and Hercules, the Encyclopedia Mythologica. Encyclopedia Mythologica. There was actually one of the things that Sherilyn Eaton mentioned when I brought up that book is that the writer of that book actually tweeted her about her inclusion of the gods, and he actually messaged us and gave us a shout out. Let me see if I can find it here. Pull this up. Anthony Flamini said, props to the Black Comic Lords for the shout out to my work with Marvel Comics Egyptian in West African Gods and Thor and Hercules Encyclopedia Mythologica. 15 years old and still as relevant as ever. So he, I guess he must have watched the show and then realized we had given him a shout out for that. So that's kind of cool.
I downloaded. I can't find a hard copy yet, but I downloaded it on my Amazon Fire, so I have it in in digital form. I don't have the actual book, and I think it seems smaller in digital form. And I mean, when I say small, I mean not as inclusive as the big book has. And I'm still on the hunt for that.
The book itself is not tremendously huge. Bo Big says, something about the interview that I love was how passionately Sherilyn spoke about getting African mythology and Orisha's not only correct, but much needed spotlight. Oh, yeah, man.
That's one of the things that I said. That's one of the things that I said last week, is that it would be nice if Marvel, focused on these pantheons. We have the Greek god showing up all the time. Thor of the Norse pantheon has his own title. There is no logical reason why these African gods shouldn't be folded in or regular parts of Marvel storytelling. So,
all right. So Blurred Forever and Chad Kinsler both corrected us that the Secret Invasion actually was about 3 issues: 39, 40, and 41.
Okay.
Thank you for the correction. I couldn't remember how many issues it was. See Wakandan Dies up with my all-time favorite Black Panther stories. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Spock Jenkins. $10 super chat. Thank you, sir.
Let's go! Let's go!
He says he was
that was the great Daniel Kaluuya and Kiki, not Wyatt, but
Palmer.
Kiki Palmer. And
Kiki
it's
Palmer.
funny seeing him like that because the show that we were talking about earlier, The Fades, he was an extremely young man in that and a complete and total nerd. So it's funny seeing how he started out to what he's like now. That was cool.
This I was referencing the Pan-Africanist makeup of the Pantheon. Good stuff. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you're very welcome. All right. Let's see. Cornelia says, is that when T'Challa chopped off the head of Sabretooth?
Yes, that was the House of M storyline. I want to say it was issue number 10. So yes, that's what that was. Yeah.
House of M.
House of M. Yes, that was it.
You guys had it on the last interview. PR, the interview before that.
Or the interview before that.
Oh, all right. Jason Aaron showcased T'Challa hand-to-hand skills in this tie-in, which I wish we could see more of. Facts. Absolutely. Right. T'Challa's got hands. And one of the things I loved about in this Blood Hunt issue 3 was seeing him go up against these Atlantean, I don't know what they were, vampires, demons, what have you. And he didn't even waste time like trying to engage in conversation, negotiate, try to disarm them. He just murked the whole lot. All you see was blood in the water, severed limbs, heads floating. He just murdered them all. And I love to see that. Just all business, not trying to be a quote unquote superhero and try to disarm them. I don't kill, I hesitate. He just took them out. In a bloody fashion.
When we get to those pages, we can talk about it more in depth. But I look at that differently because in what he was talking about, that's actual T'Challa hand to hand. And this, he's got some power ups through both Blade and Ket. So that's not his normal hand to hand fighting.
Oh, Marmon Williams with the $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. Man, we might be able to make the rent this week. Appreciate it.
Evolve back! Evolve back!
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. So back to the book.
Yeah.
As we, where we left off last week is Bass called her sister Anna.
Appreciate you too, man.
Who is a basically river goddess. And Bass knows that there is a Wakandan temple that is in Atlantean territory. Anoket, being a river goddess, is transporting T'Challa to this temple so T'Challa can destroy it. Bass wants the I didn't mean that. Blade wants the temple, or Varney wants the temple in order to give him a power up. Bass wants T'Challa to destroy it. So he's on a somewhat of a twofold mission for his one master, Blade, aka Varney, to grab it, on his god Bass to destroy it. And so Anoket takes him in the water, gives him some of her blood, which allows him to breathe underwater and gives him somewhat of a boost when it comes to power. So at the end of issue number 2, we see some Atlanteans confronting him. At the start of this issue is when he goes up against them. He's like, look, I don't want to fight you guys. I don't want to talk to you guys. I need to talk to your boss so I can, do something with this temple. Now, what's interesting is it must be his getting the power up from Anoket allows him not only to breathe underwater, but to speak underwater. All right.
No. I think we kind of talked about that. He's a vampire. He doesn't have a pulse. He doesn't breathe, so he
Right.
doesn't need to breathe underwater.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So he doesn't need to breathe, but he still needs to be able to speak. And he needs, these people are obviously probably speaking Atlantean. So how is he communicating with them? That's a question that I have. Right?
T'Challa says in his inner dialogue in the book, "I speak many languages."
He does speak many languages, so I guess we're just to assume that he speaks Atlantean.
I would be shocked if he didn't speak Atlantean. It's one of their number one rivals. It would be smart for him to learn how to speak their language.
Right. So basically, they're trying to stop him from doing what he needs to do. T'Challa's like, I don't have time for this. And thanks to his power up from Anoket, he now has some electric powers. And he actually reminded me, this issue or these couple of next panels reminded me of Calderon, aka Aquaman from over in DC. Calderon is what was the other well, that was the name that he went by. He's an Atlantean over in DC, took the place of Aquaman in the Justice League, and he has mystical powers as well as being able to control water, much like the way T'Challa is doing here. So that's what I was thinking about when I saw these panels.
And yes, indeed, yes. Ravenel Dupree says, "I wonder if Marvel is going to let T'Challa taste more of those sweet Anoket goodies anytime soon. It seems like their vibe was more than casual. Let me tell you something.
It was very casual, but he's thinking about it because he mentions it in his book.
Anoket is a whole damn problem. That woman is a straight up thirst trap. That line she gives about where is it? Let me see if I can find it.
This right here.
Oh my god!
Basically, hold
this
on.
panel right here, where she's like,
what you have right here is Anoket has shown back up where Bass was. Bass is like, okay, so where's T'Challa? Basically, what's going on? And Anoket is like, look, I took him where I said I was going to take him, and I let him do what he needs to do. And then Bass is upset. Now, these two are sisters. They're part of the Ennead together. And so Bass is upset that Anoket didn't help T'Challa destroy the temple as she thought she was going to do. And she didn't give
so she calls her out and says, "You're as slippery as a river snake." And Anoket says, "Yeah, but I'm also as wet." I'm like, oh my lord.
And look at that look.
Oh my lord.
Yo, pull up that panel. Look at that look. That devious look.
That look in her eye. Good lord.
When I read that, I was dying laughing. I thought that was very, very, very funny. I thought that was very funny. And I like the way the mischievous look that the artist Fareed Karima caught when she says that line. I thought that was very well done. Extremely well done. It somewhat has a double entendre right there. It was very well done.
Not somewhat at all. Wow. there was something that she had said that I want to bring up. Mark, you go ahead and keep talking while I try and find it.
Well, I mean, that was basically the gist of, of what I wanted to say. You can tell that these two are somewhat, I'm not going to say bitter rivals, but they're not as close familially as one would think. But they're gods, they're immortal, or whatever the case may be. So there's a long-standing, it seems, rivalry between the two. But as I said, I read this book today, and when I saw that panel, I just busted out laughing. Which goes back to something I was thinking about, and I asked Paul about this earlier. For those of you who are collectors on a regular, consistent basis, and you get your stack of books on Wednesday, the books that you're really looking forward to reading, do you guys read those first, or do you get the other stuff out of the way and wait to savor what you're really looking for? What you're really looking forward to reading. So for myself, I always wait, right? If there's something that, obviously if I'm collecting it, I want to read it. But there are things that I really, really want to read, like, for example, this Black Panther book. So I saved it to the end when I read all the other stuff and got that out of the way so I could really focus on this. So I'd like to know, for those of you guys who are here in the chat, let us know. Do you wait, or do you read it first? I'm just curious.
All right. So I found what I was looking for. Let me show you something from the discussion, which someone else reposted on Twitter. But this was one of those moments that actually had me in my feelings in my interview with Sherilyn Eaton. Let me show you this. I hope you can hear this. Let me know if you can't hear it.
T'Challa's been knocked around a lot.
A lot.
And I wanted T'Challa is him, like he's that dude. And
You
I
want to
wanted
give the swag back.
Yes. I wanted him to, get some, I don't want to say arrogance, but to me, T'Challa doesn't need to be humbled. And
say that part louder again. Yeah. For the people in the back.
I don't think that T'Challa needs to be humbled. There are things that he needed to learn, and I think multiple writers have done a great job in T'Challa learning and growing. But I don't think he needed a humbling. And I wanted, even though I know that he was like, he had fallen prey to Blade and he was serving someone else, I wanted to emphasize that Wakandans may have a broken government, but they aren't a broken people. And T'Challa is that dude. T'Challa is, king or not, he is that dude. Heart, soul, mind, all of it. And so I kind of wanted the last of the first to show this man is important and should be treated.
Let me tell you something. When this woman said those words, she immediately became my number one choice to be the next writer for Black Panther. Well, she was already my number one choice. But at this point, she definitely solidified it for me. It was cathartic to hear, for me personally, just me personally. I'm not speaking on behalf of Black Comic Lords or marketing. On me personally, it was cathartic to hear a writer of this character say, dude doesn't need to be humble. I wanted him to have his swag back. This is that dude. This is T'Challa, the Black Panther. He's that dude. He doesn't need to be humbled. He's the dude. And we haven't had him be that dude in a long freaking time now, y'all. A long time. The deconstruction was done. And then it got redone and done even worse, to the point where he's crawling himself back up from the abyss of hell. And it's like, can we just have the dude be himself again? There's been enough torture of the character. There's been enough sidelining of the character. There's been enough dethroning of the character. There's been enough of go back to Africa to the character. There's been enough of the let's kick his ass every other issue to the character. Let the character be in character again. And she recognized that, and she did it in her run. So yeah, am I giving her a lot of props? Yeah, because she freaking deserves it.
With her saying that, and with this 3-issue run, it shows that she actually understands who the character is, because she, with her own verbiage, the whole millennial verbiage, he's him, he's that dude, her words. And that's clear. That's the way he's always been up until the past 5 or 6 years. You had other writers, quote unquote, deconstructing him and quite frankly making him a punk. I mean, I'll never forgive that one writer for having T'Challa being put on his backside by a dude riding a buffalo. That's not who T'Challa is. He's not going to be sitting up here fighting with Captain America. He's that guy. He's one of the most important characters in Marvel. Not black characters, mind you, but characters. He's as smart as Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Hank Pym. He's as smart as those guys. He's probably richer than they are. He has the he's a very great tactician, on par with anybody in Marvel, up there with Doctor Doom. He, like she said, he is that guy. We haven't really seen that from him in a very long time, and it's been very disappointing. But these 3 issues have been good. But going back into the book,
hold on. Let's deal with the quotes on this from the chat. Really hope she gets appointed to write the next 616 Black Panther series.
That'd be great.
Eaton or Thor can't go wrong. So my three writers, my top 3 to write Black Panther, other than the obvious people like Reggie Hudlin, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Christopher Priest is not going to happen anytime soon. Now we've got Sherilyn Eaton, Brian Edward Hill, and Jeffrey Thorne. Any 3 of these writers can elevate this character and put them back where they're supposed to be. Clearly. Those are my top 3 writers to write Black Panther.
I'll say 4. You said 3, I'll say 4. Jeffrey Thorne, Sherilyn Eaton, Hickman, and Brian Edward Hill. Those are the 4 who I would love to see on Black Panther. Any one of those 4 would be great for the character.
That was a wonderful quote. T'Challa doesn't need to be humbled. We need our hero to be that admirable hero. Men want to be him, and women want to be with him. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Why is that so wrong? Why is that so hard?
Yeah.
So that's what superheroes are supposed to be.
Right. So going back,
can't let T'Challa get too uppity. Yeah, so they slapped him down. Marwan Williams says they saw the strength his character was giving folks, so they had to put him in his place and tone him down. I mean, it's all there. I can't disagree with you, bro. She is smart and creatively subversive. Protect this woman. Facts. Absolutely facts. Damon Watson, that interview you did prove Sherilyn is the only one who needs to regularly write him going forward. Yeah.
She's one of the top.
Marvel was giving T'Challa the Peter Parker treatment. Oh, Lord.
Peter Parker has always been the down on your luck type character. Common for him. What we've seen over the past 5 years with T'Challa is new in the way I look at it. Even in other storylines, when, for example, The Man Without Fear, when he took over for Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen, he wasn't treated the same way then, the way that he has been over the past couple of runs. So it's somewhat different, I would say.
Nazi says that Marwan Williams, I think that is why T'Challa was killed off in the MCU. He was too inspirational to black people all over the world, so Disney nipped that in the bud.
absolutely not, Anansi. The reason why T'Challa was killed off in the MCU is because Ryan Coogler, bless him, was in his feelings after the death of Chadwick Boseman. Nate Moore, who doesn't appear to even like comic books, agreed with him, and the two black guys went to the white guy and Kevin Feige and said, "You know what? We need to kill off this character." Kevin Feige, did not wanting to disagree with his two black creatives, signed off on that. I don't believe it had anything to do whatsoever with the character being inspirational. It had everything to do with Ryan Coogler being emotional about the death of his so-called friend who he didn't know was even sick or dying.
Well,
come on, Paul. Listen, we've had to stop. We've had
hold
this conversation
on.
before.
Let me finish. Let me talk. I let you talk. Let me talk. What you said was the how. What Anansi is addressing is the why. How it happened. Let me finish. Let me finish, dude. Don't make me have to mute you again. What you talked about is how it happened. What I think his point goes to is what happens subsequent to that. So, yeah, sure. Kevin Feige said, you guys, you make the decision, you make the call, and we'll back whatever it is that you want to do. But ultimately, Kevin Feige didn't have to do that. Kevin Feige said, yeah, you guys can get out your feelings. We got money to make. This movie just made $1.3 billion. We sure as hell are going to make another one with the character. He could have done that. He could have pulled rank. Nate Moore is not the head of Marvel.
No.
Feige is. Nate Moore is a producer. He could be fired just like that if Feige wanted to.
Yes.
That's the first part. So Feige did ultimately, he had the right to veto their decision if he wanted to. That's the first part. The second part is, and more important for me, is what happened afterwards. Sure, not going to recast for the next film. But then, taking it a step further, you literally have a storyline with Blip, which would allow you to not recast the character for the next film, but not kill him off. So then he doubled down and said, not only are we going to not recast the character, we're going to kill the character in the universe, which they did not have to do. They did not have to do that. There was a storyline already set up for them to excuse why he wouldn't be in the next film. They decided to kill him off, which was not necessary. So there was that part. Hold on. There's one more point. Next point. And this is a quote from me on this show 2 years ago, after they made this decision not to recast the character. I said that Marvel, being as it's set up, where the studios takes precedence over the comic books, is going to have to, Marvel Comics is going to have to do something to the character to keep in line with the stupid ass decision not to recast the character. The comics are going to have to do something because everything that happens in the movies eventually affects the comics on some level. In one way, shape, or fashion, whatever happens in the movies is going to have an effect in the comic books, because the comic books are no longer the source material. The comic books are promotional material for what happens in the Marvel Studios. So they're going to have to, at the bare minimum, they have to sideline the character. And what we got subsequent to that decision, with all of this deconstructing of the character and sidelining him and dethroning him and getting his ass kicked and etc., is a byproduct of all that. All this book that we have now, talking about the mantelization of Black Panther, was always just a mantle. Let's focus on ancient Wakanda and let's do these stories with his great-great-great-grandfather and Shuri and all these other Black Panthers to distract people from the idea that Black Panther is T'Challa. It's not simply the mantle that we can focus on all the other hundreds of Black Panthers that have been throughout history, and let's expand upon that, so to distract people from the fact that we are sidelining T'Challa. I have no problems with expanding and talking about other Black Panthers. That's fine. But Marvel has emphasized that because they're trying to dissuade people from focusing on the character of T'Challa. And I got problems with that. So yeah, as Mark describes, yeah, it all went down just like that. Robert Moore Ryan Coogler spent, $300 million there for a therapy session for his lost friend. That should not have happened. That should not have happened.
So
Feige should not have let that happen.
So to go,
but everything that happened after that, there has to be a reason why Marvel, as a company whose job is to make money, said no. We're not going to go the safe route, the logical route, which helps us make more money by recasting the character and not de-emphasizing the character. We're not going to keep collecting on where we make our money on licensing, on cartoons, on lunch boxes, on costumes, toys. We're gonna throw that money away. What company throws money away needlessly that's already printed for you? You've already got your fan base. They're already hungry for more. And you say, you know what? We're not going to take that route. Why? Because of the goodness of our hearts, and we want to honor Chadwick Boseman, where they recasted all these other characters left and right. What's his face? The guy who played Thunderbolt Ross, William Hurt, died. They recast that dude within 2 months. Like, they didn't even let the body get cold. And that dude had quite a bit of screen time himself, from all the way back to like Iron Man 1, 2008. So yeah, there is more at play than simply this is what they decided, and Disney decided to just back these two guys' decision. Disney doesn't make decisions like that. That's illogical. There's a larger reason. Now, do I know what that reason is? No, not necessarily. But certainly Disney has an agenda when it comes to this character. I believe that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So to go directly to what Ananti said, I think that why T'Challa was killed off of the MCU, he was too inspirational. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and we're just speculating or whatever. But based on actual interviews of what has been said, the decision to kill the character off was made literally within 5 minutes when Ryan Coogler and Nate Moore had a conversation. It had nothing to do with the character being inspirational. It had everything to do with Ryan Coogler being emotional over the death of his so-called friend that he didn't know was sick. And Kevin Feige, being the white guy in the room, did not want to overrule the two black guys who were sitting up here saying, hey, we need to kill this character off. I don't feel that there was some big grand conspiracy by the man to not have an inspirational black character. Understand that it was a black guy who made this decision. Two black guys, as a matter of fact. Because had Nate Moore reeled in Ryan Coogler, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. It was those two black guys who went to the white guy and said, hey, this is what we want to do. And he was like, all right, fine, whatever you guys want to do. So no, there isn't some grand conspiracy in my mind of why it happened.
I wouldn't use the term grand conspiracy, but there's definitely a reason beyond we're going to back these two guys' decision. That's absolutely nonsensical. Absolutely nonsensical. I stand my side around that. Patrick Andrews says the same thing. Now, there's no reason why T'Challa hasn't been recast outside of agenda. No disrespect, sir, but it's much deeper than feelings. Since when does Disney walk away from a guaranteed $1 billion? Facts.
Because the two black guys went to the white guy.
Mark, saying the same thing over and over again still doesn't make it more sense.
It's fact.
You're saying facts, but that you're saying how, but you're not saying why. All right. We already get the how it happened. What everyone's focusing on is the why. It has nothing to do. Two black guys said, "Hey, we didn't want to make the movie. That's why they decided to sideline the character for the last 5 years." Mark, that makes no sense.
But they did it. You're absolutely right. It makes no sense. But that's what they did.
But they didn't do it. They didn't do it simply because these two guys said we didn't want to make another movie that replaces our friend. That doesn't explain why they sidelined the character in the comic books. That doesn't explain why they're emphasizing the mantleization on everything else.
Okay, because T'Challa.
We're talking about the whole thing.
All right, but T'Challa is still alive and kicking in Marvel. Okay, so I'm talking
alive and kicking. But Mark, you and I both have a run that we won't ever read ever again because he's alive, but he's not doing well.
That's a whole nother
We're
issue.
still waiting on him to be king again.
That's a whole nother issue. That's
it's not a whole issue. It's all tied together, Mark. That's what I'm pointing out to you. It's all tied together because Marvel Studios runs Marvel. So if you're talking about what's happening in the comics, you might as well go look at what's happening in the movies, because those guys, Kevin Feige got made head of not just Marvel Studios, he's head of Marvel, which includes the comics. So when Kevin Feige says, we're not going to recast this character, Marvel Comics has no choice but to push that guy to the side and start doing the "it's only a mantle" thing that they've been pushing on us for the last 5 years, which has not existed in comics before this. Has not.
Okay.
And that's what we got to go.
Here's what I'm getting at. Chadwick Boseman died in 2020, right? The Ta-Nehisi Coates run started in 2018. That's when T'Challa started, was removed from the throne, when they moved away from the monarchy to the whatever it is that they have over there. That had nothing to do with Chadwick Boseman's death. Now, after he died, the writer, who we will not name, he may or may not have been given the instructions to sideline the character. I can't speak on that. But the way T'Challa was treated predated the death of the actor Chadwick Boseman. So that's why I disagree with that.
First of all, Ta-Nehisi Coates' run began in 2016, not 2018. So it came out before the character dropped in Civil War.
Right. Hold on.
And the fact that that they decided to go to a constitutional monarchy rather than having him simply be an absolute monarch did not take away from the fact that he was still king.
Right.
They had a constitutional monarchy, which means he's still king.
Right. You're right.
You know, he has a parliament that has a say in the government, but for all intents and purposes, it's like instead of being a king, he became a president. And the president has checks and balances on him. That's not a bad thing.
But he was being sidelined.
That's not a sideline. That's not a sideline. That's not a sideline.
At the end of
being kicked off your throne is a sideline.
Okay, so all of that predates Chadwick Boseman's death. Is the point that I was getting at. However you want to term it, all that predates Chadwick Boseman's death. In live action, the reason why he was, not recast, because Paul is absolutely right. There are at least two separate storylines that they could have gone with to sit up here and have the character sidelined, not killed off. That was a decision made by Ryan Coogler. Okay, I don't feel that, again, that there was some overarching design not to have an inspirational Black character, because as he said, that movie made $1.5 billion, whatever that amount was. So logically speaking, you would want to keep that money train, gravy train going. But
they didn't. Why?
Because Ryan Coogler was emotional.
Oh God, you saying the same thing. That makes no sense. That makes zero sense.
It makes
Does anyone think it makes sense? I want you guys to chime in. Do any of you think it makes sense that Disney, a multi-billion-dollar company whose job it is to make money, decides, hey, we're going to walk away from money. We're going to allow ourselves to make less money because two Black guys said they didn't want to recast the character. Does that make sense to you?
Have you ever seen any interview that said what Ryan Coogler said, we were told to kill this character? Have you ever seen that?
No.
Ooh, okay. Right. So stay with that.
Right.
They, Ryan Coogler specifically, the writer and director, was not giving the direction to kill off the character. Right. As a creative, that was his decision. And it was supported by more. That's what I'm saying.
And have you ever heard of a Marvel movie not getting a final stamp of approval from Kevin Feige?
Which goes back to the racial element that I've said.
That's stupid.
I agree.
Oh, sorry, bro. That's just absolutely stupid.
I agree that he signed off on it, but the facts are the facts, Paul.
But why did he sign off? There's who, what, where, when, and how. But the main important thing is why. Why? You can keep repeating who, what, where, when, and how, but why is always the most important question.
Right.
And Kevin Feige, so look, if your opinion is Kevin Feige holds them in such great regard, these two black guys in such great regard, that he's willing to allow the company to make less money, to walk away from a moneymaker that made the $1.3 billion because two black guys said, we don't feel like recasting the character, then I don't know what to tell you.
So then why else did he do it?
Well, let's see what the chat says.
No,
They
I'm
didn't
asking
like what was happening.
No. Before we get there, let's focus. Why do you think he did then?
They didn't like what was happening. Black Panther became something they couldn't control.
Why do you
Young
think
black folks saw what they could be, and it started to click. The character, I think there might be something to some of the things that people are saying here. They didn't like what was happening. Black Panther became something they couldn't control. Young black folks saw what they could be, and it started to click. The character started a shift of thought. Understand, Mark, before Black Panther dropped, there was a number of ideas in Hollywood. A black lead movie wouldn't make money. A black superhero couldn't make money. All black cast, majority black cast couldn't make money. A majority black crew couldn't make money. This movie shattered multiple tropes and stereotypes. It was unprecedented. Marvel wasn't even ready for what happened with that movie. It was a paradigm shift. It showed black people on stage, and they even made money in Asia, who apparently hates having black people on movie posters and stuff. They had to make sure that Chadwick Boseman had his mask on in the movie posters because they're afraid the Asians would hate to see the movie and support it. It made money anyway. That undermines the entire paradigm of how Hollywood is structured. Believing that, you know what, black people can make money. All that stuff that we were saying as to why we rejected this script and why we didn't greenlight this script and why we didn't put this actor as the main focus of this movie rather than this actor, and why we race swapped this character with a white character because we didn't want that emphasis, all that got undermined with this film. It's not simply about two black guys got in their feelings, so we're going to support that. I'm not a conspiratorial guy by any stretch of the imaginations. I focus on facts and logic. Logically, it made no sense for them to do what they did. So you have to believe there is some ulterior motive. There's some agenda involved. Am I some Illuminati type agenda? I'm not that type of guy. That's not me. That's not my personality. But clearly there is some type of agenda here. And the fact that, just a few years before this movie came out, we're talking about Oscars so white. And why is it these talented people aren't getting the recognition that they deserve? And this movie comes out and undermines all of that. That's a game changer. This movie was a game changer, and we cannot understate that. So yeah, undermining that is a big deal. The Rock tried to do it again with his Black Adam film. He put a deal in place with DC Comics. Now, I'm not saying that Black Adam is the same as good quality movies as Black Panther, but understand what he tried to do. He literally cut a deal with DC before they had the big shift that they had over there with Warner Brothers, saying, screw Superman. We're going to make Black Adam the #1 guy in the DC universe. And by the way, I'm doing a film with a bunch of people of color as my team. He put together the first people of color super team in a major blockbuster film, right? And he cut a deal to say, because DC, then in the comics, you're doing all this Black Adam promotion stuff because the deal had been cut. When he talked about, I'm learning this is going to cause a major paradigm shift. That was all the advertising Warner Brothers is doing. This is a major paradigm shift in the DC universe. He fought to have Superman come in that end scene so he could establish the fact that Black Adam is the big dog now. I'm taking your spot, Superman. That's why he fought for Henry Cavill to be in that end credit scene, so he could establish that. And then DC had a big change in edit, and big Warner Brothers had a big change in staff and undid all of that. But that's kind of the effect that Black Panther, the ball, it set rolling. And they both got undercut. And now we got race swap characters left and right for temporary representation, as Chillmonger would say. Which leads to why we're going to talk about why Supercell is so important later on. That's just my take. Ravenel Dupree says, Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler are in the same boat as John Ridley to me. Just trash decision-making regarding the character T'Challa.
Absolutely.
Chad Kinsler says, no company with common sense is going to turn down making guaranteed money. Jay Wilkes, T'Challa should have been recast. I have to agree with him on the agenda to stop the movement created by the positive, noble image of Black Panther. There is money in keeping us from greatness.
That doesn't make sense.
T'Challa needs to be king again, period. Ryan doesn't have that much power. That's what I feel. Makes no sense. Spock Jenkins, nope. Cornelius, shaking my head. Patrick Andrews, yeah, if it's not in Mark's face, it ain't true.
That's not, hold on. I'm going to address that, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on, stop. I'm going to understand something. I've been Black in this country my entire life, all right? Obviously, racism...
Except for that period in 1983.
Stop. Racism exists in this country. We know that. We understand that racism is inherent in this country. I understand that clearly. But when you look at what has been said surrounding this property specifically, when it comes to live action, everything goes to what Ryan Coogler and Nate Moore wanted to happen. Okay. You can look at interview after interview. You can, from their own words, they said that Kevin Feige didn't give them direction to kill the character off. He even gave them the option to hold off on making the movie. Okay. That's what they said. That's not me saying that. That's them saying that. So I know that there are a bunch of conspiracy theorists out there, and the man is always out trying to get us. I understand that too, but I do not think in this particular situation that is indicative of that. I think it was an emotional decision. That's what it was, and it ended up eventually costing them money.
Sure. Marwan Williams disagrees. Why, brother? Why? Still haven't answered that. You're not explaining why, though. You're giving Ryan and Nate too much power that doesn't exist for Black men in Hollywood.
But in this particular situation, again, that's not me saying that. That's them saying that. Understand, in interviews, Ryan Coogler and Nate Moore, said that Disney or Marvel, through Kevin Feige, gave them the option to not do this movie then. Okay? That's not me saying that. That's them.
Mark, there is a truism that exists in nature and in life, in science even. No one gives power. It's taken. No one gets power by having it given to them. It's taken. There's no reason for this multi-billion-dollar company to give these two Black men that power to rob that company of billions of dollars. That doesn't make any sense, brother. It does not.
Yeah.
You can keep repeating the same thing. Well, this is what they said. This is what Disney said. This is what Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler said.
Basically, that
doesn't explain all the subsequent actions afterwards.
Attention now, that behind the scenes, Kevin Feige said, "Yeah, I want you to kill off that Black character." Is that what you're saying?
Did Kevin Feige said yes? I must kill off the Black. No. Is that what you're asking me?
I ask you, it is your contention that Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler was given the directions to kill off the character?
I didn't say that. What I said was that did Kevin Feige sign off on killing off the character? The answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yes, but were they directed to? Is my question.
No, but they signed off on it.
Yes, he did.
We hear all the time how various directors say, I wanted to do this in the movie, but the studio said no.
Right. So,
The
so why?
studio did not say no to him killing off the character.
Correct.
And the question I have is why? When Robert Downey Jr. said, you know what? I'm not coming back for Endgame because I want $20 million for 20 minutes of film. The studio could have said, well, F you, Robert Downey Jr. We're going to recast you or kill you off in the film so we don't have to pay you $20 million. Is that what they did? No, they said, we're going to make a decision to pay Robert Downey Jr. $20 million because we're going to make $2 billion on the film. Those are the decisions studios make.
So they
ended up paying Robert Downey Jr. $20 million to do Endgame because they made $2 billion off the film.
So then
or
why
more
did
than that.
why did Ryan Coogler kill the character?
Because it was in his feelings. You yourself already said that.
Okay.
He killed the character because he's in his feelings. And he couldn't, quote unquote, see anybody else playing that character.
Right.
That's his feelings. When Kevin Feige said that, he said, for some reason, Kevin Feige said, well, I'm going to roll with what you said, despite the fact that it's going to cause us to lose money. That we know for a fact we can make because the numbers, because we have computers that tell us this is how much money we can make if we recast the character. We're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore our stockholders who want us to make money, and we're going to make a movie that makes less money than a sequel. All other Marvel movies, understand, all other sequels of Marvel movies make more money than the original film, except Black Panther.
That is correct.
They knew that. They had the track record. They have the numbers. They have the actuarial guides, is what they call them, that said we can make more money with Black Panther 2 than we can make with Black Panther 1, and they ignored it because two black guys said they're in their feelings? Miss me with that, man.
What I think,
look out of here.
This part is me.
That's absurd.
This part is me.
It's not speculating. That's facts. You said you want to focus on facts. Those are facts. Marvel ignored making money and signed off on killing off the character rather than making money. That's not speculation. That's facts.
I wasn't finished.
The question is why.
I was not finished saying what I was speculating about.
Please speculate on something other than two guys made the decision to not make money for Disney.
Is that probably Ryan Coogler and Nate Moore told Kevin Feige that us black folks would not accept anybody else in that role. That's what I am speculating about, and that's why he signed off on these.
Are you saying Kevin Feige said these two black men represent all of Black America, and I'm going to trust in what they say, rather than all of my departments that run the numbers and prove how much money we can make? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I think he listened. Well, we know that he listened to the two black guys, and I believe that they probably told him Black America or the black world, as it were, would not.
Or as Trump says, the blacks.
Not anybody. They would not accept anybody else in that role, and so that's why he signed off on it. Because, as you mentioned, William Hurt wasn't even the ground yet before they announced Harrison Ford as the new Thunderbolt Ross. That's what I am speculating about. Everything else that I've said is based on fact and interviews. That's what I think. But I don't think it has anything. I don't think it has anything to do with trying to keep us down and trying to show, that black people need to be in their place. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Kevin's goal is to make as much money as possible. And we know that.
Damon Watson says, I feel like there's an Ari Goldish person at Disney that would say, F your feelings. That billion means more than two emotional black guys. Yeah, you know who that guy is? It's Kevin Feige. That's the guy who makes that decision, Damon. I'm with you on that.
For those who don't know, Ari Gold was the guy over in
Entourage. Raven L. Dupree, I think Disney and Feige listened to Coogler and Nate Moore and the fans who discovered the character in 2018 via the movie instead of staying the course.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's absolutely correct. But the question is why? I side with the We Ourselves video.
I don't know what that is.
I don't think I know what that is. Cornelius, feel free to post that video in the chat so we know what you're talking about. Patrick Andrew Jr. Yep. It was too powerful for them. They had to diminish the IP.
That doesn't make sense because it costs them money. That doesn't make sense.
So does killing the character. Jesus, you're contradicting yourself.
No,
so
I'm
does
not.
killing the character.
Yes, but Kluger made that decision.
But Kluger doesn't have that. Jesus, I can't with you. I'm convinced they wanted to undermine a black character like that, one that outperformed even the white heroes.
That doesn't make sense because it's a business.
You're with every time you say stuff like that, you're counteracting what you just said.
No, I'm not. I'm
hitting the nail on the head. Come on, man. Consistently inconsistent. Come on, man. It's a black man as a king of a wealthy nation from Africa, and the world liked it. No logical sense.
It was emotional.
Definitely agenda driven. I'm not seeing too many people that are agreeing with you here, Mark. What was the topic of tonight's show? I forgot for some reason. That's Derek's way of saying you guys need to move on from this topic because I'm bored. Yeah. Patrick Andrews Jr. Movie was too powerful, and by what I've learned from Black Panther experts, T'Challa was watered down, and it still made billions. Now that Mark and I will definitely agree on.
Yeah.
Damon Watson, Black Panther made $1 billion in the movies and then got slapped in the pages. That's true. I genuinely hope that there will be an adult live-action version of T'Challa within the next 6 years. 2030 will mark 10 years since the death of Brother Chadwick. There's no excuse to not recast.
Correct.
We can agree on that as well. King Sigma, Marvel was crying black characters weren't marketable. They broke the mold with Black Panther and destroyed it. Make it make sense. That's, yeah, absolutely. Spock says they want the money, but if they can make it without the black uplift, all the better. See the shift in commercial hip hop circa early 1990s. Conspiracies can work at the level of culture. I kind of feeling what Spock is saying on this. DC definitely doesn't want black people in charge. Yeah, DC has some issues. Well said, Paul. Well said. God bless you both. Coincidentally, I was blocked off from an actual Black Marvel DC fan site on Facebook for saying these exact same things. I was told to get over it, healed. Well, dude, that's why you can always come over to us at Black Comic Lords, where you can have these feelings and share your feelings at will. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter page, Instagram. Plug away. Big Dog Gaming says that Asian Black Panther movie poster is not true. Disney willingly did that on their own accord. That's how wicked these people are. Bad Boy posters were shown in Asia. Now, the Bad Boy posters were done. I mean, I guess if you're referring to the recent ones, that was after Black Panther. You couldn't really not show Will Smith and Martin Lawrence on Bad Boy 1 because they're the only two stars of the film. So it is what it is. The poster did have his mask on. That's not made up. And Marvel did that on their I'm not saying Asia told them you need to remove the black face off the poster. Marvel itself made the decision of thinking, you know what, we're afraid Asians may not like seeing a black person on this poster, so we're going to make sure there's a masked version on the posters.
Right.
So it wasn't like there was some memo from the president of China saying you need to remove this guy's face off the. They just said, "Hey, we don't think that it's going to make money if we do that." So they made a decision on their own. Like I said, they were pushing for Shuri and the Dora Milaje to take over Wakanda. Well, yeah. Of course, Disney is going to explain their decision in company interviews. They would never tell us the real truth. I mean, yeah. Still missing the point, Patrick Andrews says. That's fine for Wakanda forever. No reason for this BS to continue. Black Panther is not dead. Don't worry. Don't stress. Still feeding the community. Still giving strength. Hopefully, Mary remembers not going to cry. Mary? I don't know what that means either. Yes, however, you're hanging on to that point like a hairline that no longer exists. Speaking of hairlines, Mark, the one criticism I gave Sherilyn Eaton on the art was my man T'Challa's hairline was way too far back.
Yeah.
What is with the dude's hairline? Fareed Karima is a fantastic artist, but T'Challa's hairline, that was was way too far back. My man looks like he's, 50 years old or something. Like, I gotta believe that the heart-shaped herb mixed in with some various berries and juices that are Wakanda.
Kills male pattern baldness.
I don't believe that's true. I believe the heart-shaped herb mixed with shea butter and what have you. You can rub that in your hair, and it should be like poof. You automatically have a full set of hair. Look. Wakanda had the original Soul Glow. There's no way you're going to convince me that men should be bald in Wakanda. That's just not something that should happen.
Yo, speaking
that's my only criticism.
That chick who played in the original Coming to America, she would have made a good Shuri. The skinny sister, the dark skinned sister, she would have made a good Shuri.
Yes, I agree. I wonder what she's up to. I never saw her do anything after that.
I haven't seen her in anything since then.
Logically, you don't kill off the black character that was portrayed by the man who you're mourning and then claim that killing off the character is honoring. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It is illogical, but that's what they did.
It was a $300 million funeral. Chadwick's embodiment of T'Challa gave him that power, and they couldn't have that. I took my mother to see Black Panther. When it came out, the wonder and joy on her face brought me to tears. Yeah, I took my entire family, my wife, my child, my parents, to all go see Black Panther. It was a family event. Sharing that with my dad was cool before he passed. Behind the scene, I don't think we were ready for a new T'Challa at that point of time.
That's fine, but don't kill the character.
Agreed.
I disagree with
that. They
that.
should have delayed the film and then recast. That was an alternative.
There's no reason to delay.
They could have used the blip storyline, and there's no reason to kill a character. It was already there. Mom, seeing our people uplifted and prosperous, standing on power. Now let's enlarge that globally with our folks, especially the young children. It was powerful. That's almost similar with editors with Marvel and DC Comics on black comic book characters. They don't want to see them shine. I didn't say it. The people are saying the streets are talking. Comic book streets are talking. Behind the scene, they gave T'Challa the A-list treatment and did the safe movie. If there was this anti-black movement for the character, they would never have made the first movie in the first place. $200 million. Well, Dion, understand, there actually was an anti-black movement, and it got vetoed by what was the guy's name?
Perlmutter?
Was it Earl Perlmutter? Earl Perlmutter?
Ike Perlmutter was like in charge of Marvel or something for a period of time. And he was the one who was like, women movies that were woman driven or black driven will not sell. It was Kevin Feige who said, "Yo, that's not true."
But there was also a Disney. There was also a Disney executive that ultimately had to go around the one guy who was preventing the movie from being made and said, "We're going to make the movie," and he vetoed that guy.
Right. But ultimately, it was Kevin Feige who was fighting to bring this character to the screen.
Right.
Kevin was the one who was fighting. So it does not make sense that as much as Kevin fought, who is a comic book nerd himself, it does not make logical sense for him to fight to bring this character to the screen, see how much money it made, and then all of a sudden say, you know what? Yeah, we don't need that character.
You're making my argument for me. That's exactly the point I was trying to make.
I know you think so, but I'm not.
Okay, fine. Sure. Do you think they'll feel making the son Black Panther in the last 20 minutes of the film will help them bank for the third?
No.
If they do, they're stupid. They're absolutely stupid. Patrick Andrews Jr. Exactly. Dion says, we can't say Disney is evil and anti-black, then line up to go to the new Wakanda theme park and buy new merch. The T'Challa variant is best move now. Post Secret Wars. Dude, I can't agree with that at all. The T'Challa variant? Well, okay. The T'Challa variant, I see what you're saying. I'm thinking the T'Challa thing. Yeah. As long as it's not TJ. TJ, I don't recognize TJ at all.
One of the things that they should have done, they had the sorry-ass Secret Invasion storyline. The way that they had James Rhodes come out of a pod, they could have easily had a new actor be T'Challa and say the one that died was a Skrull, which is why you guys didn't see the body at all. And then all of this could have been done away, but they didn't.
Or at the very least, make some illusion that wow, Rhodey was a Skrull. How many other characters? Because that's how the comic book went. The comic book had you guess trying to question who you thought was real and who wasn't, right? And Secret Invasion didn't do that. They had Rhodey exposed as being a Skrull, but they could have left it open ended and said, "We don't know how many other people in the Marvel universe may also have been Skrulls."
The
If
Secret
they had
Invasion,
done that, that would have been an explanation as to
Secret
why they
Invasion,
never showed the body. They could have said T'Challa died of some weird disease that for some reason the heart-shaped herb couldn't fix. Doesn't make any sense. In the most advanced technological country in the world, they didn't have the medicine to fix it. Although they can cure Everett Ross of getting shot in the spine. They can fix that, but they can't fix. Made no sense. Made no
okay,
sense.
so Secret Invasion in the live action MCU was a sorry series. It could have been so much better.
So much better. So much better.
In the Secret Invasion series, world leaders had been replaced by Skrulls. It would have been very easy to undo what was done in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and have an actor King T'Challa coming out of a pod saying, "Hey, I'm the real king." And the reason why you guys didn't see a body when you watched that movie that I have not seen and will not see is because when Skrulls die, they revert to their true natural form. That's why you didn't see a body in the movie, because
Right.
Shuri and Okoye and Ramonda knew that it wasn't the real T'Challa, but before they could address, okay, where is my son? Where's my brother? Where's the king? They'd get attacked by Atlantis, and all that could have been done, and we wouldn't be
Could
having
have
this conversation.
easily done that storyline. What an easy way to even allude to that storyline is when Rhodey pops out of the pod and they're like, "Hey, he's a Skrull." Right next to him should have been Ayo, one of the Dora Milaje. They should have had her pop out and say she's a Skrull too. Then you'd be like, "Wow, it even got to Wakanda. How do we know
Yeah,
how many other Wakandans didn't become?" It could have been easy. It's
right.
easy.
I was saying that when that series dropped, the
He
video on
won't
post
post in the chat. Oh, all right.
on the
Well, then post it on the Black Comic Lords Facebook page. Not the airline. They had my boy Shaw looking like LeBron after the hair plugs. For real though, he kind of did. For real, he does look like LeBron after the hair plugs. Another point: artists be messing up black folks' hairlines. Worst case, Lucas Bishop. You know the worst artist of all time for black hairlines, and you can look it up yourselves. The artist's name is the British guy. Mark, who's the
great,
artist on the original Ultimates comics?
not Hitch Bendis.
Brian
Um,
Hitch, thank you. Brian Hitch. Look up Brian Hitch, put in any black character's name with Brian. I'll even give you, look up Age of Ultron. I think it was Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron. Something like the Age of Ultron storyline in comic books. And look up Luke Cage, Age of Ultron, Brian Hitch. Google that. And look at my man Luke Cage's hairline. Put in any black character with Brian Hitch. That brother, that dude does not know how to draw a black lineup to save his life. He's just not very good at it. I remember someone on Twitter actually called him out about it, and he's British. He did some type of Britishism of, go pound sand or go F yourself. He did some type of British curse to this guy who said, "Dude, you really don't know how to draw black hair." And he's like, "Go, you know, shiv your givers," or whatever the Britishism was. Dude can't draw a lineup to save his life. The video is titled "The Real Reason Marvel's Deleting All Iterations of T'Challa." All right, I'll look it up. I'll look it up, Cornelius, because that's something that I find interesting. The heart-shaped herb is the new hymns. All rolled up in one, though, right? It is the ultimate male for vitality potion, right? Which is why at the end of Black Panther Blood Hunt, because Derek is like, "You guys need to move on. You're talking about this for too long." Bast hands T'Challa the heart-shaped herb in her hand. beautiful moment after welcoming him and say, "Welcome back to Wakanda. Welcome back home." Beautiful moment. She did that in one pump. It was I said this was a cathartic moment in one panel. One panel. She took away, like, let me put it up here. This one panel. Welcome back, my champion. This is Bass, the goddess of Wakanda, saying, "Welcome back, my champion. Welcome home. Welcome back to Wakanda." And she hands him the heart-shaped herb out of her own hand, which is something he doesn't get unless he's gone through trials. To get the heart-shaped herb, you have to go through trials and earn it, right? To become king, you have to earn it. And after all the crap that he's been through for the last 5-6 years, she says, "Welcome back home, my champion. Welcome home. I recognize you as my champion, my acolyte. You're the best of the best. I recognize that. And you deserve to be here in Wakanda, despite the fact that Folasade kicked you out the country because she's actually a spy for Doom." Talk about that some other time. "I'm welcoming you back to your country, and I'm handing you the heart-shaped herb." She did all this in one panel. One friggin' panel.
Yeah.
A cathartic moment for the last 5 to 6 years. I love that.
Listen, we've been doing this. We've been at this for like 2 hours already, right? It's been
I
2
know, but
hours.
there's other comments we gotta get to. We gotta move on. Let me just finish up with the stuff in the chat so we can move on to the next other books. Is there a T'Challa variant that will obviously require a new actor to portray variant T'Challa, so they might as well recast the main MCU T'Challa, bring him back via Resurrection Alter?
There are a
Sure.
lot of ways to do it.
Speaking of Resurrection Alter, one of the things I pointed out in the Black Panther Blood Hunt book is that there's this line where Anakin says to Bast, "He's your champion, not mine." And then I asked Sherilyn Inkton, "Does Anakin have a champion?" She's like, "Oh, I don't think so." First of all, Anakin's never been in Marvel Comics prior to this run. So a lot of these gods could have champions. Khonshu has a champion. He has Mark Spector, right? And he has Howling Hunter's Moon. What if Anakin were to have a champion, an acolyte, right? But what if she were to resurrect somebody? Because understand, Anakin is the goddess of healing, not just the rivers, but also healing. And we know that these Orisha, that's this pantheon of gods that's been set in place in Wakanda, are the gods of Wakanda, right? They all are responsible for different things. Ta is responsible for the vibranium. Kaku is responsible for that whole warrior mentality that the Wakandans have. Bast is kind of like spiritual god, right? But Anaket, the river goddess, who was responsible, because remember, Kaku had burned all of Wakanda, all of the ground, burned it to ash. And they're like, Anaket needs to go ahead and flood the grounds because historically, Anaket in ancient Egypt was responsible for providing the floods from the Nile to water the lands to make them arid, to make them not arid, so that people can grow their crops. So in essence, they asked Anaket to go further south to Wakanda to do the same thing. So Anaket technically should be one of the Orisha, at least partially. Regardless, Anaket is also the goddess of healing. There is a resurrection altar in Wakanda, right? If there's a resurrection altar in Wakanda, who's to say that Anaket wasn't the one who created it? None of the other gods are goddesses of healing. So the resurrection altar, it'd be a great storyline for a writer to follow up on and say the resurrection altar was actually created by Anaket. And if she can resurrect somebody to make herself her own acolyte, who could she resurrect? Think about it. What character? Let me back up. Anakin has her thirst for T'Challa. She interests him, right, Mark?
Yeah.
What character, what person could she make her acolyte that T'Challa would find hard to resist? If she could resurrect somebody on her resurrection altar that she created, assumably.
You've been saying, as you've been talking, I've been running through my mental Rolodex and trying to figure out what Wakandan or African character that you could possibly be referring to, and I have absolutely no idea.
Two possible characters. Most recently would be Nakia from outer space. At the end of the Coates run, we already established that T'Challa and Nakia, the intergalactic Nakia from the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, sacrificed herself to defend Wakanda Prime on Earth from, what have you. So much so that Nakia now has a statue in Wakanda. That's how much they honored her. T'Challa actually had feelings for Nakia, which Storm actually recognized in the comics. It said, had a confrontation with Nakia and said, hey, while my man was away and he didn't have memories of me, he told me that he had a relationship with you. So I'm not going to be all jealous lover type chick right now because he's going to need you in the coming battle. But just recognize that I just want to let you know that I know. But Nakia's like, so are you jealous? Are you like going to have some type of... She's like, no, I'm not jealous because I'm me. So quite honestly, there ain't nothing you can do that I can't do better. He's my man. So I'm cool with that. But he's going to need you in the battle. So go ahead and make sure you take care of him. All right? Nakia sacrifices herself out in space. Anaket could literally, because remember what I said about 2 years ago, whatever happens in the Marvel comics, whatever happens in Marvel movies, Marvel comics has to emulate to some degree. In the Marvel movies, T'Challa's lover is Nakia. We have no Nakia in the 616 universe because she's dead. In fact, both Nakias are dead. The one from the 616 universe and the one from the intergalactic realm. They're both dead. Right? And he wasn't even lovers with the first Nakia. She had an infatuation with him, but he wasn't ever her lover. Anaket could very well resurrect Nakia and make that her vessel for her acolyte on Earth. Alternatively, the other person who I believe is buried in Wakanda is Monica Lynn.
When did Monica die?
In Black Panther Annual #2. They did a whole thing where T'Challa buried her, and he buried her with the heart-shaped herb. He buried her with the heart-shaped herb. So it's kind of like, well, the heart-shaped herb has all these properties, and you buried her in Wakanda in the ground where there's also vibranium or what have you. How do you know Anakin couldn't like resurrect Monica Lynn? Either one of these women, Anakin could somehow, because she's the goddess of healing, resurrect or put her essence in, make that person her acolyte, or put her essence within that person and go after T'Challa. That would be a fantastic storyline, in my opinion.
Do a commercial.
All right, I'll do a commercial. You gotta give me more. You probably have to pee or something, is that it?
No. Well, we be going.
Dear Mr. Billy Graham, I know this letter is late, but you know what they say, better late than never. And I'm writing to you because I know you'll never read this or hear this. It's a measure of therapy for me, I guess. Wondering how you never get mentioned when you are really only one of the few worth mentioning. After all, I don't think Sam and Dave had you in mind, but without question, you are a soul man. How else can you explain how a man can draw tears so well if he never shed any tears of his own? Yes, and I hear music especially drums when I see jungle action panels. And when I see Luke Cage panels, I hear the jukebox blaring out horns in the after hours joint. I guess I'm trying to say, Mr. Graham, that I dig your style, and you deserve to be celebrated like the heroes you drew. And like I said, you won't see or hear this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Thank you, Mr. Billy Graham. You are a Black history legend. Respectfully, the Black Comic Lords. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, peace.
What's good, comic fam? I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Concrete Comics, and I'm also pretty sure you guys are familiar with Freestyle Comics. Well, what if I told you they were partnering together and giving you guys an amazing promo code? So listen, here's the deal. You go to any one of these websites, you're gonna save 20% off by using this promo code. Now, if you spend more than 50 bucks, you're gonna get free shipping. You can't beat this. And when I talk to you about industry standard or better storylines and art, I mean, you're really not beating Freestyle Comics, and you're definitely not beating Concrete Comics. Listen, this is not a sponsorship. I've literally read all of these books, and they're fire. So stop crying and start buying. Concrete Comics, Freestyle Comics, joining forces. Make sure you use this promo code. You're gonna get 20% off. You spend more than 50 bucks, you're gonna get free shipping. We out.
All right. I just want to rip through these last comments before we move on to our other comments, because we spent way too much time on this other subject. Apologize to everybody, but we're passionate about our guy. I mean, that's to be understood. That's why the show's called Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom. Let's see. Walter Wilder says Black Panther movie date February 16th. Huey Pugh Newton born date February 17th. Coincidence?
Huey P. Newton was one of the co-founders of the Black Panther civic organization in Oakland, California.
All right. Big Dog Gaming. Still haven't seen a real T'Challa movie. I wanted to see the royal family of T'Challa. I want to see Prince Hunter, the real White Wolf, and the real warrior Princess Shuri. The EFO.
They did.
Yeah. Promoter and Peltz.
I don't know the name Peltz. I don't know that name. I can't say that I've ever heard that name before.
Nelson Peltz. Those are the two guys that are well, Nelson Peltz is the racist guy. Ike Perlmutter is the one who did not want to do the Black Panther movie. Bob Iger was the executive who supported Kevin Feige at the time over MAGA Perlmutter's machinations as a major stockholder. Perlmutter is very anti-diversity, inclusion, etc. So yes, it was Bob Iger who we have to thank for the reason Black Panther got greenlit.
Right.
King Sigma. Wait, there's a Wakanda theme park coming? Yeah, over in, I think, California. Secret Invasion was god-awful. War Machine character completely
wrong. You're wrong. Oh, the series. Yes, the series was horrible.
Yes, yeah, the series was horrible. Back to Black Panther Blood Hunt book number 3. Okay. Marwan Williams. Yes, basically tell us to move along. Yes, please. We lost a lot of viewers going on as we were, apparently. King Sigma, respectfully, they are not our characters. Well, that's true. You're all absolutely right, the skull angle. By Odin's fate. Ah, jeez, we'll never live that down. You know what I mean, the characters we look up to. Will Sam Wilson now link up with Storm in the MCU? We'll talk about that in a second.
No, move on.
Left my ass off, William Marlock. I still don't know why T'Challa needs the heart-shaped herb when he was the king of the dead power set. Well,
who knows? Let's keep going.
Who knows? Also, the chicken that exiled him is a Doom agent. I mean that someone mentioned that. Folasadi may very well be a Doom agent.
I don't know that has been actually explored in the book. I think
no, it has not. Has not.
Right.
Sherilyn Eaton says that she believes that Doom is behind what's going on in Wakanda. and there has to be some double agent there in Wakanda. Asadi would be a very logical choice.
That makes sense.
Figuratively speaking, of course, yeah. G-Town Comics, they rather have us watching all this negative images and rap nowadays and positive images that Charlotte brings forth, yeah. Damon Watson, wouldn't it be dope to see Aniket and Baz compete for T'Challa as champion, or could be a champion of both? Well, I will say this, Aniket's blood is in T'Challa's system. I don't know how much control she has over him at this point, but he certainly couldn't get her out of his head. I don't think Aniket wants T'Challa as champion.
Okay. I think she wants him in her bed, in her loins, but no, not as champion.
In her loins. I can't believe you just said that. We all have to read Kemet, Afrocentricity knowledge, and everything about Voodoo just to speculate about future Black Panther story. Isn't that a cool place to be? That you have to do research on Black history to read a comic book. I find that inspirational. Epiphany Engine Kickstarter. Absolutely. If you all have not been familiar with us for any time, so if you're new to the space, understand it's important that you support the Epiphany Engine Kickstarter. Please do. They passed the halfway mark. They've got 2 more weeks to generate the rest of the funds. We're almost there. Please, 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 even if it's just $1. If you want to spend the $40 for the book, spend whatever you can underneath that. Spend something just to support having this historical book to be made. A book for us, by us, that will break records and make history. This is what it's all about. This is what we're all about. So please support the Epiphany Engine. Speaking of Epiphany Engine, did anyone notice that only 2 people have ordered the actual comic book version from Kickstarter? Might be the sleeper one to have. Okay. Damon Watson, all this talk about resurrection, even that commercial got me to thinking about Madam Slay. She's still alive in the pages. I don't remember Madam Slay being killed, so it's possible. Can you all imagine her being introduced in the MCU as an antagonist? Yes, because I would love for, what's the name of that actress? The woman,
yeah,
the mom?
Wars from Shumpert. I can't remember her name, but she's fine. But she looks like her. She even dressed up as her, I want to say.
Yeah, she cosplayed as her.
Yeah.
Tiana.
Not Parrish.
No. What's her name? God, why am I?
Keep going.
Anyway, yes. She definitely looked like Madam Slay. That cosplay she did.
But she definitely looks like her.
She definitely looks like her. All right. Marwan says, I definitely ordered mine. Can't wait for my copy. Back Epiphany Engine. Absolutely facts. All right. So now we've done with our Wakanda Black Panther talk. We're going to move on to our reads of the week. First up, going in alphabetical order, is Absolute Power. Mark, what did you think of this book?
So I'm going to be honest, I have not finished with it. I'm about halfway through. Absolute Power, we're collecting or talking about because this is an Amanda Waller storyline. And as I've said in this space before, I'm a huge Amanda Waller fan. Amanda Waller is to the DC universe what Nick Fury is to the Marvel universe. Our friend of this channel, Chillmonger, refers to her as Chick Fury. So basically, she is a bureaucrat. She has no special powers. She has no special abilities. She has like a poli-sci degree. She may even be a PhD in poli-sci. She's worked her way up through strength of intellect and will, not any type of abilities to to grasp the reins of power. And she feels Teyana Taylor.
Teyana Taylor, thank you.
Teyana Taylor. So Amanda Waller feels that superheroes are a threat and danger to the United States. And so she does any and everything that she can in order to try to keep them in check. If you remember from the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon, Amanda Waller, voiced by the great CCH Pounder, was trying to, what was the name of that organization that she worked with in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited?
She worked with Argus and
Cadmus.
And Cadmus. Those are the 3 organizations she's been tied to.
So Amanda Waller, basically tries to have all types of contingency plans in order to keep superheroes in check in case they get out of line. And that's what the storyline is about. And one of the entities that she has on her side, the last DC crossover event was the House of Brainiac, where basically Brainiac created the Bride of Brainiac. And he, the superheroes defeated him, and he jettisoned his bride so she wouldn't get caught, captured, or killed to Earth. And Amanda Waller found this entity. It's not a real life human being. It's an automaton. It's a machine. And Amanda Waller basically plugged herself into a virtual simulation where she helped raise this entity for like 20 years. In our real world, it was about 20 hours. But in the simulation, she plugged into the Matrix, basically. And in the Matrix, Amanda Waller raised this entity for 20 years to be loyal to her, Amanda Waller. And this is what she's going to use to try to keep the superheroes in check. On top of that, Bruce Wayne Batman created basically a robot Batman called Failsafe that apparently took the entire Bat family to knock it down. Well, Failsafe was destroyed. Amanda Waller found it, and she has tasked a couple of individuals to try to bring it back online and subject to her will. So that's what basically this book is about, is her consolidating power to take on superheroes if and when they step out of line. And so you need Absolute Power, which is book 1. It's going to be a 4-issue limited series. And then there was a book before this called, I cannot remember what it's called. Do you remember what it's called? The one that leads up to this?
Leads up to Absolute Power?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Absolute Power Ground Zero. Absolute Power Ground Zero came out in June. And then this is Absolute Power #1. So those are the 2 books that you definitely need. There are obviously, of course, different tie-ins with Green Arrow, Task Force X, etc., etc. I'm not saying that I'm going to get all of those, but I'm definitely going to collect this Absolute Power storyline because it is Amanda Waller driven.
This issue was really good. I was actually making fun of DC, saying, look, you guys getting blown out the water by Marvel's Blood Hunt. And there's no way you could follow that up. To their credit, DC stepped their game up with Absolute Power. The first issue was intense. To give you the setup, just the synopsis of the setup, Amanda Waller has consolidated her power. She's moved to the island of Gamora, which for all of you longtime comic book collectors and readers who remembers Image Comics back in the 90s, Gamora was the rogue pirate island in the Image universe that Jim Lee, from specifically Wildstorm universe, that Jim Lee brought over to him when he joined DC. That is her base of operations, which is kind of weird because she's a U.S. government official who works on a foreign country as her headquarters. That's how much power she has amassed, where the president of the United States is pretty much irrelevant to her. She's like, he can say whatever he wants in television. I run the country. I do whatever the hell I want. That's how much power she's amassed. She has an axe to grind with superheroes. There's going to be a series that comes out soon called Absolute Power Origins, which talks about the origins of Amanda Waller and also her motivations as to why she does what she does. It's important because what we do know from previous issues is that Amanda Waller was a family woman at one point. She had a husband, she had kids, and she lost her family, much of her family. I think the only thing she's got left is one daughter, which if you watch a Peacemaker cartoon, you're also familiar with. The cartoon, the live action show. But the rest of her family were killed in various things, crime, what have you.
Crime,
She has an
like
axe to grind with superheroes, metahumans. She hates them.
I think that part has been
Well, to say she hates them is a bit of an overstatement. She believes they should be put in check. There needs to be checks and balances. And she does not want humanity, specifically America, to be overrun and taken over by metahumans. She's like, these people have way too much power. It's almost the same argument that happened back in the Civil War in Marvel, which they said, look, superhumans, the Avengers, would have the ability to do whatever they like. They can cross borders and do whatever they like with impunity. They don't have to respect national sovereignty of countries. They don't have to respect borders. They answer to no one. They don't even answer to the United Nations if they don't want to. They're completely private and they're actors and they can do whatever they want. As someone who studied international politics and international law, I can tell you that's not how the world works. We like to have checks and balances. We like to have predictability in our world, in our governments of the world. And international politics and international law requires a degree of predictability. Superheroes acting on their own are completely unpredictable, and that is anathema to the concept of international relations. So it actually makes absolute sense to me that the governments would balk at the concept of superheroes. When I think about the Civil War storyline from Marvel Comics, in some degree, I kind of lean more towards Team Iron Man, only because it makes more sense in a realistic sense. That the governments would not tolerate in the real world, if superheroes truly did exist, they would not tolerate that they would be able to work completely unattached and without supervision. The world would never tolerate that. That's not how the world works. And so Amanda Waller says, look, we need to put these metahumans in check. They need to be under our thrall and not the other way around. Because each one of these, particularly in the DC universe, the Justice League alone are basically a group of gods. You got Flash, you got Aquaman, you got Superman, you got Wonder Woman. These are basically gods. These are people that can do things far beyond the average metahuman. Each one of these people by themselves could probably take over the world. So the idea that they can do whatever they please and they're answerable to no one but themselves in a real life settings, in a real life world, yeah, governments would have problems with that. So she's like, we need to take control of this and take them out before they take us out. I truly believe if superheroes did really exist, something like this would probably happen. I honestly believe that. Not to the extent that what happens in Absolute Power, because what Amanda Waller also does, this is a brilliant piece of writing, by the way. Amanda Waller uses our current culture in the world, our information age, against the superhumans. She doesn't simply say, hey, we need to have a bigger superpowered being to beat these guys. She takes a softer approach first. She turns the people who they deem as who they're trying to protect, she turns the people against them with a media campaign. Hackers. She takes hackers and says, hackers, I need you to do false footage saying that these heroes have turned bad and they're trying to take over the world and they're killing people left and right. And put out images, fake news on social media and in the news cycles saying that the superheroes are trying to take over the world and they're murdering people left and right.
It's a false flag. It's basically
what are you saying, Mark?
Made a false flag operation where people aren't really being killed or murdered or whatever, but because she has controlled the media and has made all these AI type images, she has made it seem as if the superheroes who are normally on our side are committing heinous acts for whatever reason, despite the fact that these people have put themselves on the line for our planet time and time again. But humanity is as a whole stupid, and so people are accepting what they're seeing. I love Amanda Waller. I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this storyline. Before you read this, though, I would encourage you guys to read Suicide Squad Dream Team, which is a 4-issue limited series, as well as the Absolute Power Ground Zero. So that's 5 books before you delve into this. If you want to get into the Brainiac storyline, you can. I enjoyed it, but it's not necessary in order to understand this book. But I like the fact
I agree. I agree.
I,
It's not necessary to do the other stuff.
right.
You could read just this issue and understand basically what's going on.
But
Very well written issue. The artwork by Dan Mora is absolutely fantastic.
But I would suggest that you guys get the Suicide Squad Dream Team. I would suggest that. But the Brainiac storyline,
Suicide Squad Dream Team has been a very good book.
yeah. So
Suicide Dreams Team is a really good book. I enjoyed that as well. Yeah. There's look, everyone knows Richard, my boy Rich's favorite superhero is Black Lightning. There's a throwaway line in here explaining why Black Lightning might be absent for this series, which is probably going to make him a little mad. All right, so we did that book. What is our next book?
the one that I have is
wait, in alphabetical order. In alphabetical order, the book that I would have would be Beyond the Pale.
Okay, yeah.
So just really briefly, because I know Mark hasn't read this book, I have. Pull this up here. It's taking its own time to load. It's crazy. All right, so Beyond the Pale, issue number 2. Just to give you the setup. I don't know why it's not populating. There we go. This book takes place in Vietnam, the Vietnam War, specifically, in the 1960s. There is a Black woman reporter who was reporting on the Vietnam War in the United States, on the stateside, from the perspective of sort of the anti-war people. And she decides, hey, you know what? I need to get the other side of the story about the Vietnam War by going to Vietnam and seeing the war from the other side. At least that's the story she's telling everyone. The real story of why she's going to Vietnam is that she's also noticed stories about the fact that various African-American soldiers have gone missing inexplicably. And she wants to know why are brothers disappearing at an alarming rate in this particular area of the war, at this particular fire base in the war. And she's an African-American woman herself. And she decides to go in country. She goes on missions with this team, and she's trying to figure out why are these soldiers disappearing. And in this particular issue, there's something there's a supernatural element there, because you're seeing these creatures attacking at some point. And all she knows is this one word, mu, which means like grand or great or big. And she's like, where is the mu? Because I know that has something to do with why these soldiers are disappearing. And ultimately, towards the end of this issue, she finds out where the mu is, or she gets some soldiers to take her to a place that's tied to this place called the mu. And all I will say without doing any spoilers is that it very much reminds me of what you see towards the end of the movie Apocalypse Now. So if you're a fan of the movie Apocalypse Now, or war movies, what have you, you'll dig this book, because I'm intrigued. I really want to know what's going to happen next. I enjoyed it. I think it's a dope book. I think it's definitely one to check out. I think there's about 3 or 4 issues in this series, so it's not a huge investment if you want to go ahead and check it out. So I recommend Beyond the Pale, number 2.
Okay. So the next book is Star Wars Inquisitors.
Just to tie up the chat here. Just real quick, G-Town says, Waller's a badass, one of the few, if anyone else, to walk into the Batcave unannounced to Batman's surprise.
And try that.
She's pulling a Homelander.
Homelander wished he was as smart as she is. Couching and slouching with C
Yeah.
Bizzle.
All right. So what's your next book?
So the next book is Star Wars Inquisitors. I enjoy Star Wars. I wouldn't say that I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not a Star Wars fan like a lot of people are who have read the novels, who've played the games, who know any and everything about the Star Wars universe. The Inquisitors are not necessarily Sith, but they work on behalf of the Empire. In this book, the Grand Inquisitor, who we saw in, I guess it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Ben and Kenobi series.
Yeah, the Obi-Wan Kenobi
Yeah.
series. Basically, they are on the hunt for a Jedi who escaped Order 66 by the name of Tensu Run, who is basically trying to bring the Jedi Order back after they had been slaughtered. So they are searching around the galaxy for this guy. This particular issue was cool. The reason why we're discussing it is that it was written by the great Rodney Barnes, who has been writing the magnificent Philadelphia storyline over on Image. The artist is Ramon Rosanes. I don't know that individual. Paul May, I don't, but Rodney Barnes is writing this, which is why I'm collecting it. I've read some Star Wars comics, like the Darth Vader book was so very good. Like that came out about 5-6 years ago. The Dr. Aphra book was pretty good. There have been some great or very good Marvel Star Wars properties. I don't read all of them because again, my fandom of Star Wars is like at a 3, unlike other individuals. But this book, it was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, and I will support it because Rodney Barnes is writing it. Is this going to be a limited series or is this going to be an ongoing? Do you know?
This I believe it's. I actually don't know the answer to that question, but I will say this: I am a big Star Wars fan. I collect a lot of Star Wars comics. The cool thing about Star Wars comics that you should know is that Marvel Studios declared a while ago that the Star Wars comics that have been being done by Marvel are canon. So everything that you see in the comic books is canon to the Marvel universe. Everything that you see in the novels is canon to the Marvel universe. Everything you see in Disney Plus is canon to the Marvel universe. Ever since Disney took over Marvel, everything subsequent to that they produce out is canon. So that's kind of interesting because whether you're a fan of just cartoons or books, novels, or comic books, or live action movies or television shows, whichever one of those properties that you enjoy, you have to understand it's all interrelated. It's all tied together. It's all canon. It's all part of the same universe. So everything that's in this comic book is canon. Mark mentioned that the Darth Vader series from several years ago he really enjoyed. Subsequent to the part that he read was a huge storyline involving the Inquisitors and how Darth Vader is the one who actually helped lead the Inquisitors just shortly after he became a Sith Lord. So basically, after Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where he became Darth Vader, a couple of things happened. Understand, he didn't have a lightsaber. Palpatine sent Vader on missions to go kill a Jedi to earn his first lightsaber. Because what many people don't realize is the reason Sith lightsabers are red is because you're supposed to get a kyber crystal and bleed it. You're supposed to bleed all the negative emotions, the pain, the anger, the fear, the hate, bleed all of that into the kyber crystal, which turns it red. And that's what creates the red blade on Sith lightsabers. That's why Sith lightsabers are red, because that's part of their journey to becoming Sith, is to turn the Kyber crystal, bleed into the Kyber crystal, turn it red to make their own lightsabers. So on his first mission to do that, he had to defeat a Jedi without a lightsaber in order to bleed it, to bleed that Jedi he killed, get his Kyber crystal and bleed it in order to make his own lightsaber. And after that mission is where he got to lead. Palpatine gave him the Inquisitors and said, these are the guys you're going to go out to go track down all these Jedi and kill them. So the real first Inquisitor stories were actually in Darth Vader, which are really great, dope stories. Rodney Barnes is not new to writing Star Wars.
Right. One
He has written
Darth Vader. He got his ass whooped by somebody. He was no longer Anakin. He was Darth Vader. And this particular Jedi in the book that I read, like, beat him handily. But then Darth Vader came back and made the guy make a choice between saving some innocent people that Vader was holding hostage, so to speak, and saving his own life. And of course, the Jedi sacrificed himself. But, we think of Vader as being this all-powerful big bad of the Star Wars universe. There have been people who have and can defeat him. So, but it was a good storyline. Yeah.
Well, more so than that, what I really love of all the Star Wars comics, Star Wars Darth Vader has been the most interesting. The reason being is that you realize that what you saw on the screen is only a fraction of the depth of the character. By the time you see Darth Vader from, the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, to Return of the Jedi, you start to pick up on some things. You notice in Empire Strikes Back that he pleads with Luke and says, I'm your father. Join me, and we can overturn Palpatine. We can take over from the Emperor and bring order to the galaxy. The bring order to the galaxy part is what Anakin was talking about in what was that third prequel movie's name? Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, or whatever it's called. He's like talking about bringing order to the galaxy, because the galaxy was just a mess. And he was talking about how the Republic just was messy. The guys couldn't make decisions. There was disarray. The Jedi were weak. The Jedi were contradictory. They would say one thing and do something else. And Anakin was like, you guys are kind of hypocrites, because you say you stand for this, and yet you do something different.
Yeah, but let's not go
what have you. So there was a reason why Anakin turned Sith. And you realize to simply say Darth Vader's a bad guy is an oversimplification. And the cool thing about the Star Wars Darth Vader comic book series is that you see Anakin / Darth Vader realizing Palpatine ain't the truth. He's not the answer. And he's actively undermining Palpatine. And he even goes so far as to form his own rebellion within the Empire to assert power from Palpatine. So when you see him talk to Luke about join me and let's take over power from Palpatine, he ain't feeling Palpatine. Palpatine controls him, but he ain't got no loyalty to the dude, because he's been trying to assert power from Palpatine repeatedly, is what you see in the Star Wars Darth Vader comic book.
So bring it back.
So what's interesting, which brings you back to Inquisitors, because the Inquisitors are various Jedi that Palpatine, because after Order 66, they're wiping out these Jedi. Palpatine also found various Jedi or Padawans and turned them to hunt down other Jedi. So most of these, if not all of these Inquisitors, are former Jedi. And he is getting them to hunt down these other Jedi. And the main Inquisitor, he's a super powerful guy. Not as powerful as Darth Vader. He's pretty powerful. What's also interesting, as I said before, Rodney Barnes is not new to writing Star Wars comics. He has written Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. He's now writing Ahsoka. He did a one-shot called IG-88. And now he's also to the Ahsoka. And now he's doing Star Wars Inquisitors. The difference is, other than IG-88, which is a one-shot, Ahsoka and Mandalorian were simply adaptations of the scripts of the television shows. So those scripts all he's doing is adapting what was in the television show. Inquisitors is the first Star Wars series that he's done where he gets free reign to do whatever he likes. This is original storytelling on his part. It's not part of an original script that he's adapting. He's writing his own story. He's, in essence, writing Star Wars canon. Okay, that's kind of cool.
We've been at this for 2.5 hours. The Inquisitors is a good book. I would encourage you guys to pick it up. So that was, for me, as far as I'm concerned, that was the last book that we had.
It is.
What you're watching is what should be next. But go ahead, yeah.
Damon Watson says, I'm still praying to see the Darth Bane trilogy on screen. That is the single most philosophical set of books I've ever read from Darth. Yeah. Most people know what you're talking about. Bleeding at Crystal is even more poignant because it's done over the will of the crystal itself. Yes. So there are some Star Wars fans out here. Appreciate that. When you kill a youngling, you are a bad guy, period.
I agree, Scott. Yes. There is no, you may have seen me roll my eyes when Paul said that, Darth Vader is not necessarily a bad guy. There's more to him. When you kill kids, you're a bad guy.
Yeah, I don't, just to be clear, I'm not saying Darth Vader's not a bad guy. What I'm saying is that you see the struggle between Darth Vader and Anakin in the Darth Vader series because, well, I'll just leave it at that. You see the struggle between the two halves of the man in the Darth Vader series, which is kind of cool. Which is why Luke says, I can still sense the good in you. Because Anakin was still there, it's just Vader is still controlling him. Even in the Obi-Wan television series, he kind of briefly sees Anakin, and he's like, Anakin, you're there. And then you see Vader take over, and he's like, Anakin's gone. So that's what's cool about the Vader series. You can see little flashes of Anakin in the struggle, which is kind of cool to see. Anyway, so we're done with the reads of the week. And we are now going to, hold on, looking. Wow, this is all difficult to do. We're now going to, what you watching?
Yo, so this is, if you have Netflix, and I hope
Mark
you do,
has been waiting all week for the show to talk about this, by the way.
Let me say, because I found it by accident. I don't know how I found the show. I was on just scrolling through, saw some colored folks. I'm like, okay, let me see what this is. Yo, Supercell. We're talking about the show Supercell. Supercell is a 6-issue series over on Netflix. It is about British
episodes.
I said issues, yeah, episodes. It's about Black folks who have superpowers. So it is a superhero type show. There are 5 different individuals who have different powers and abilities. One of the main characters is a guy by the name of Tosin Cole, who I fan cast about 3 or 4 years ago as T'Challa. He has the power to kind of skip through time. He has the power to time travel. He has the power to time, teleport. He's a super powerful dude. There's another guy who has the ability to turn himself invisible. There's a guy, if you watch BMF, Black Mafia Family, the guy who plays the Black Mafia Family, and this, I think his name is Andre. He has super strength. There's a guy who was in Kingsman, who in the second Kingsman, who has super speed. And then the 5th person of their group is a young lady who is a telekinetic. Each one of them have a friend or family member who they've told their secret to. And so you have these, these hangers-on, so to speak, or these people who know their journey that they're getting ready to go through. So on the screen right now, you have Tosin Cole. Next to him is his girlfriend or fiance. Next to that is the dude who is from Black Mafia family. He was also in the Book of Clarence, which was an extremely good movie if you have not seen it. Next to him is a young lady who is a nurse, and she has the power of telekinesis. On the left, underneath that, well, to the far left, is a guy who plays Taser, who's the one who can turn himself invisible. The lady next to him,
who's a great actor, by the way. He actually doesn't speak a lot, but he emotes a lot of emotions just with his facial expressions.
He's a very good actor. I don't know who the lady is next to him. Who's that? Who does she?
That's the one who plays the telekinetic sister.
Who's a bird? She's a dummy. So yeah. So So the chick on the second row, second, is the sister to the biological quote unquote sister to the young lady at the top of the screen on the far right. Next to her, going back to the second row, the third character is a dude who has super speed. He was in Kingsman, The Golden Circle. He was the one who died in Eggsy's apartment when the bomb came. He has super speed and he has super healing. Next to him is his friend. Now, what I couldn't understand is, are they lovers or just friends? I could never.
Yeah, that was a little vague. Like they were friends, but he was like really, really, really tight with this dude in a way that made you think that they might have been lovers as well.
Correct. It's unclear what the relationship is between the last two, but the black dude is the one who has super speed. Damon mentions that Taser's on the show Borders, which is on Tubi. I mentioned that as well. If you go on the Twitters and if you see Supercell and you see my hashtag, I'm also mentioning Borders. Borders is another show that I want you guys or suggest that you guys watch. It's about, again, 5 black youths from London who are quote unquote underprivileged, who are admitted into a very posh private school. But that aside, Supercell is spectacular. I cannot say enough. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give this 15.8. Supercell is an extremely, extremely good series. You can watch it in an afternoon. I've already watched it once. I would love to watch it again and for all of us to watch it at the same time and tweet about it or whatever. So if anybody's interested in doing so, let me know when you're available and we'll make it happen. But this series is very, very well done. Love the acting, love the characters, writing. I have no complaints about this show whatsoever.
Louisiana Kid, I'm not going to post your comment because it's replete with a bunch of spoilers, which I don't want to do. But I appreciate you posting. Here's the thing. We talk about in this space all the time, particularly tonight, about how disappointed we are about, various decisions that Marvel and DC make in their movies, television shows. How we always want representation, how we don't want race-swapped characters, how we want characters that are more authentic to the Black experience, not someone's interpretation of what the Black experience is, or what they think the Black experience would be. Supercell, if you look at the bottom of the screen of these 3 rows, on the third row on the left is the guy by the name of Ratman. He is the creator of the show. He's the creator. He's the writer, producer. I think he might even be the director of some of the episodes. He's the showrunner of the show. This is his show. So, it's coming from our perspective. This show, if I were to categorize it, would be a combination of 3 shows. If you remember the old NBC show Heroes,
right,
from the early 2000s, that's one.
Yep.
The next thing I would add into the mix would be Top Boy from Netflix, which talks about South London drug dealers on what we in the United States call projects. In Britain, they're called estates.
Top Boy is basically The Wire in England. That's what Top Boy is.
Yeah. And then the next mix in that would be Top Boy, Heroes, and Blak, the comic book Blak, which deals with the concept that Black people only have superpowers. So, without being too spoilery, because I think you kind of figured this out fairly early on, Black people, for the most part, are the ones who have the sickle cell trait. And very much like the X-Men, sometimes that sickle cell trait can be mutated. A very rare version of sickle cell, which grants people superpowers.
Leave it at that.
And
Leave it at that.
and I'll just leave it at that. And that's where, in essence, the powers to these individuals come from, is from the sickle cell trait.
It's an extremely good show.
It is extremely good, and I want us to support it.
Yeah.
I would encourage all of you to support it. We complain all the time about how we want proper representation. One of the shows Mark and I really loved that we talked about at length on this show, that we asked you guys to support, was My Superhero's a Bounty Hunter. I love that show.
My dad, the bounty.
My dad's a bounty hunter. I love that show for a number of reasons.
Especially season 2.
Sci-fi show, literally intergalactic empire of Wakanda on the screen, and a family show. I sat with my daughter and watched the show, and she loved it too. It was a tremendous, great experience, and it got canceled. You want to talk about positive representation of a Black family on a sci-fi show that was exciting, action-packed, great special effects, and had a great story. This show had it all. It literally had it all. And it got canceled after season 2.
Yeah. It was an
So,
animated.
look, Supercell is a fantastic show. It's for us. It's by us. You know, it's weird. I saw this comment. Maybe it's because, you know, I come from a different background than a lot of people, but I saw this comment on the internet where someone said, "Wow, it's a British show, but it's got Black people. I had no idea that Black people in Britain have some of the same problems that we have in the United States." Some people may not be that worldly, or maybe not understand that if you're part of the Black diaspora, right? I've traveled a lot. Mark has traveled a lot. One of the things that you learn when you travel and you study is that if you're part of the Black diaspora, there's a lot of commonalities in our experiences. Black is Black, whether you're here in England, in the Netherlands,
Outside
in Canada.
a lot of us have the same experience.
We have the same experience of the discrimination, colorism, racism. That's pretty freaking universal.
Yep.
So a lot of our experiences, we have more commonalities than you may realize. Yep. So when you watch a show and you're like, "Oh, it's British, they're not really Black," which I freaking hate when people say something as ignorant as that. Understand, you will automatically identify with these people. You'll forget the fact that they're British in many respects, except for some of the certain phrases that they use that you're probably not going to get, like "wagwan," or, you know, what have you. Fantastic show. I would suggest we need to get the numbers up on the show so we can get a season 2 and get more shows like this. Mark has said this before, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. Pull out your device, whether it be a tablet, a computer, cell phone. If it has Netflix on it, play the show and just let it run in the background. Let it run.
You've got to watch it. It is a very
certainly, absolutely. You should watch it because it's entertaining. It's a fantastic show. It's great entertainment. But after you watch it, Watch it again. Let it play in the background while you're doing the dishes or doing your laundry. Let it play in the background and let it continue to play.
I don't know that it
Go
was
to
in the
bed and put your phone on the charger and let it play. We want Netflix to get as many hits as possible so it shows that people are watching the show, and let it continue to trend to be the #1 show on Netflix.
Netflix has an algorithm where it shows you what the top 10 most streamed program shows, movies are in any given week or whatever. I don't know that this show was in the top 10,
It
but
was. It definitely was.
well, okay. It is a spectacular show. Highly recommend, as well as this show over on Tubi, Borders. Damon says a watch party is a great idea. Listen, I have nothing to do this weekend. If anybody wants to link up online like Saturday or Sunday, my Twitter handle is at ATLBLERD. Let me know what date and time. Paul, if you would post this on the Black Comic Lords over on Facebook, pick a date and time this weekend. I'm down because we should live tweet this. One of the things that I hate about everything being dropped at once is you lack the ability for everybody to watch it. Like House of the Dragon drops same day, same time. Everybody's watching it at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Not so when it comes to this show. So we need to go ahead and try to make these numbers pop, so to speak. So I would love to sit up here and live tweet the show with you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm an Festo. I really encourage you to watch the show, man. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
We should do a Zoom for Supercell.
I'm down. Yeah. It's really,
In
really
it.
good. Now, let me say this. The first 30 minutes of episode 1 are dry and slow as hell. I'm just going to be honest with you. But after that, it's great. Every episode is great.
Marvel has been doing that every night, letting it play. You got to let it play, man. Even after you've done watching the series, first of all, watch the series.
Yep.
I strongly encourage you, pull it up on a device. As you plug in your phone at night, pull up the Netflix app, plug in your phone, let it charge overnight, and let the freaking show just play. Put the volume on mute, turn your phone over so the light's not playing, and just let the episodes keep playing. So let Netflix know that someone's watching it. Get the algorithm going.
Very good.
You're getting people saying they're down for. You got to pick a date and time, Mark.
Listen. If you guys, first off, make sure that you're following me on Instagram. I didn't mean that. Well, yeah, but
Are you plugging yourself right now?
Basically, on Twitter and Instagram, I am at ATLBLERD. Hit me up, follow, whatever. And if you guys want to watch it on Sunday at like say 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, let me know. And then we can start with episode 1 and live tweet each other at that time. This show needs to pop, and I feel as a community, because that's exactly what we are, we should support the show and talk about it. So again, Paul, I would ask that you go ahead and put it on the Facebook and see what date and time would work for people. If you guys are not if you're on Facebook, you're not following Black Comic Lords page, you need to do so. Obviously, you need to follow us on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button. But I really want us to watch this show because it is a very good show. Supercell and Borders. Those are the 2 shows that we recommend that you guys watch.
Yeah.
So that should be
that my Dad the Bounty Hunter being canceled really pissed me off because that was a quality television show, particularly the second season. It was a quality television show.
Especially
you want to talk about excellent Black representation and sci-fi and action and good family values and literally Wakanda on the screen. I'm not even exaggerating. Mark can attest to this. They put the intergalactic realm of Wakanda on the screen, and they did not try to hide that.
Season 2.
Yeah. Wow. I don't want that to happen to Supercell. We got to support the show. It begs for a second season. It ends on a cliffhanger, which begs for a second season. The show needs a second season.
More than 6 damn episodes, I tell you that much.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Someone says
right.
Axel Foley is back. Beverly Hills Cop on Netflix. I'm gonna watch that next.
That show is
I heard it was good. How exactly do Black British people see African Americans? We do not know. The actress that played Harry Tubman views us, not saying all, but don't say only us. Look,
no matter. Basically, he's talking about Cynthia Erivo. Supposedly, she may have said something, whatever. It doesn't matter. We are all the same. Okay, no matter where the boat left us off at, we are all the same. And I'm not going to sit up here and get into that nonsense. All right. At the end of the day, this is a Black show that is set in England, and it is about us. It is a phenomenal show. All right.
Yeah, I mean, look. Let me explain. Let me explain something. You guys, I've studied a lot of this stuff in my life. I'm not going into details on that, but understand. If you travel, for example, hypothetically, and you go to England and you see a Black person who's lived in England their entire life, or their families lived in England their entire life. Let me back up a bit. Something that's common in our culture is we refer to each other as brother and sister, right? A large part of that is because, in my mind, I always thought, anyway, in my opinion, we don't know who's our brother and sister, because understand, when those ships left those ports in Africa, they split up families, right? And one ship might have gone to Brazil with a father. Another ship may have gone to Virginia with a mother. Another ship may have gone to England or Holland with a son or a daughter. So understand, we all come from the same place, and your brothers and sisters, your ancient grandfathers, your grandmothers, your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, they all got shipped off somewhere else. And the same colonial slave system that enslaved them in England, enslaved them in Spain, enslaved them in the Dominican Republic, enslaved them in Puerto Rico, enslaved them in Cuba, enslaved them in Brazil, enslaved them in North Carolina. No, don't interrupt me. No, this is too damn important. Don't interrupt me. Enslaved them in North Carolina. It's the same freaking slavery. Okay? It's the same freaking colonial system. Understand? So the same experiences of racism and colorism that you have experienced in the United States, they felt the same shit over there. So when you watch, particularly this show, Supercell, you will see similarities. No difference. There's accents that are different, but the experiences that they're having is exactly the same experiences. No different than what you see on any American show. No different, because our experiences are the same. We're Black as Black, man.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I've traveled the world. I've gone to places and I've seen Black people in places you don't expect to see Black people, and they're having this exact same freaking experience. You really just got to take yourself out of that mentality, because there's no matter where you go, there's a certain sect of people that can call you nigga, man. It's just gotta understand that.
Mindset, Black is Black. But anyway, it's been 3 hours. Had fun as always. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
Yes, we will. Thank you all for showing up and participating. We appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, thank you. Hit the like button. Black Comic Lords. We got you.